hear myself through my headphones. Yes, man. Like, I feel real good about this right now.
Pay attention, because you are now listening to Permission to Speak Freely.
For our one Instagram follower who questioned if we had a SME coming on the show or not about BBA Sim, right? So, we put it out a while ago. He's like, hey, we got a SME coming on. And he was like, hey, man, is it really a SME or is it just like somebody who read a bunch of tech manuals is going to talk about it? I'm like, no, we have a SME coming on, like for real. And I get why people think like that. A lot of programs come on and they say they got SMEs and it's just somebody who learned a lot, right? No, we got a SME, right? So it's our pleasure to be joined by Captain Charles R. Harmon, branch head of Enlisted Plans and Policy, OpNav N 132. So thanks for joining us, sir. We appreciate this so much.
Most definitely.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And my first question was, do you know where you are?
What do you mean by that?
Like Permission to Speak Freely podcast.
Oh, yeah. I'm good to go.
Yeah, and I earlier before we came on, I saluted the team and I just thanked everybody just for being plugged in and getting to us, right? And like kind of understanding that there are people listening is good touch points. My first question just out the gate would be, first of all, how was your day? Let's start there before we go anywhere further.
Well, every day you wake up's a good day. What you do with it's up to you, right? So you make the most of what you can. Mm-hmm. You're here in the DC area, so you know how the DC world for Navy works. So every day is different. That's the, I guess, the advantage of being at this level. But the other piece for me is every day I get to do something that helps a sailor somewhere, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and then for our trusty followers, listeners, and supporters who's looking at NCC Sawyer, like, hey, it's another person there too, right? We also joined by NCC Joey Sawyer, man. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. We appreciate you being here. Y'all know Damon. Y'all know Aaron. Y'all know me. Y'all didn't come here to hear me and Damon and Aaron talk about what pizza was better out of New York pizza and Chicago pizza. Y'all don't need to hear that Chicago pizza is better.
Stop.
Y'all want to hear about Sim BBA. So we're going to get right into it. My first question is billet-based advancement has been in the conversation for a long time. We recently interviewed retired Fleet Beldo. And when we researched her, she was talking about BBA. But it seems like we finally pushing the red button on it, which, kind of dates back a few years. So my first question is, why now do we finally push that red button?
I think a lot of it had to do with, the inventory, because this was started before my time in the seat. So I think what really drove it, but based on the results we've seen, is our overall inventory in the Navy is short. And, we had those 2 really bad years of recruiting, coming right at the end of COVID. And that created a lot of gaps at sea. I mean, I'm talking over 20,000 gaps at sea. And so we're bringing that number down. And part of bringing that number down is getting the right person in that billet. Not saying that all billet-based advancements is you have to go to sea duty, because that's something I hear a lot of too. Mm-hmm. That's not the case, and we can talk about that later. But it was really to help us fill a lot of gaps, and I'll give you a couple of numbers. So after 3 years of the Master Chiefs, why we started the Master Chiefs? Well, we had to start a Master Chiefs because we had to pull the senior chiefs into the Master Chief billets to create the gaps for the senior chiefs to pull the chiefs into the senior chiefs, and so on and so forth. So we're kind of going down, and as you know, we just recently, this last March exam, most of the E5s that took the E6 exam, they took a rating knowledge exam so they could play in the marketplace and be part of billet-based advancements. Mm-hmm. But historically, Master Chief billets were being filled by Master Chief at 40%.
Yeah.
Currently, we're filling Master Chief billets with a Master Chief at about 94%. After 3 years. So that's really when we started peeling it back. And if any of you guys have done a carrier tour or been on a flight line somewhere, there was a lot of times there's a senior chief as your maintenance Master Chief at the squadron, because there's no Master Chief wanting to go do that job, just being frank. You go on a carrier, it's supposed to be like 23 master chief, departmental master chiefs, you might find 12, but you found a whole lot of departmental senior chiefs. We flipped the script on that by billet-based advancements and by, encouraging you to go in to fill those jobs. It's allowing us to fill the gaps at sea at the khaki level. And that's after 3 years, we're in our 4th year for master chiefs and so on and so forth. We're seeing some big gains at the supervisor level. Not saying all the gaps are filled, but we are seeing some significant gains on the sea duty gaps. And that's really what gives us the momentum. Because quite frankly, we don't call it a pilot, but another reason we chose master chiefs, smaller group, easier to monitor, easier to measure. And once we saw the success, then the ball just took off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you answered my second question. No, my second question was, were we beta testing? Now some people, just looking at the questions from listeners, some people would question why that route as far as the accountability piece on those master chiefs that wasn't picking those billets. Why a systematic approach versus hey, we are going to force you to pick a billet or get out of the Navy? That's a question that came from some of our listeners.
Quite frankly, we can't afford for you to get out. We need that depth of leadership. We need that knowledge. We need that deck plate leadership, just to be quite frankly. If we forced everybody who was a new master chief to make that hard decision and they chose to beat with their feet, there's going to create some gaps that we just can't overcome. I can't go recruit a master chief off the street, right? Can't go recruit a senior chief. We got to grow those people. And so we didn't want to put them into a situation of having to make that hard decision, to be quite frankly. And the part of build-based advancement was, okay, beforehand, the results come out, you frocked a master chief. People would actually retire as a frock master chief because they could have their retirement ceremony as a master chief, even though they never got paid and their retirement on E-card was never going to say master chief. We saw it. They wouldn't obligate serve. You give them orders to a carrier, they'd be like, nope, not me. They wouldn't obligate serve. So with some of those things, with the way it's set up with billet-based advancement, once you got orders in hand, you can frock. And then once you actually check into the billet, you start getting paid. And at that point, there is no opportunity for you to look for an off-ramp to keep from getting out there and filling that job that we need you to fill. So it really, for the organization, it's great, but mainly for the sailors out there. Now they have, they got a master chief where they should have a master chief, but also for the senior chiefs that were having to go do master chief work. I mean, go think back through your careers. How many times were you the junior guy in the senior billet? As a chief, you probably filled a senior chief billet. As a senior chief, you may have filled a master chief billet because you had to go do the work that somebody else was getting paid to do, right? Because we promoted them. They just weren't going. And it wasn't no better. Senior chief level is about 50% of senior chiefs are filling a senior chief billet. Chiefs were a lot better. But as you know, when you're a new chief, when you're newly minted chief, you don't get a lot of historically, you didn't get a lot of choice where you went. When we did that chief realization or optimization or whatever title we wanted to put on it, we put you where we needed you. And so the chief percentages was much higher than it was for the senior chiefs and master chiefs. So that drove a lot of that. The way it's set up, the way it is one, we're going to get that 3-year obligation out of you. So we know we're going to get some time out of you in that next higher pay grade. And I mean, quite frankly, that not just the Navy's going to benefit, but the sailors under you are going to benefit. And when I talk to a master chief or a senior chief who took the sim route, I won't say all of them's happy, but I will say the majority of them are happy that they've done it and it worked out the way it was. And also they feel like they had some say by going in the marketplace and actually picking a set of orders rather than somebody forcing them to go. And I'd rather have a volunteer or, a little pressure on the volunteer rather than somebody being voluntold to go do the job. You just see a different outcome. I mean, I've been around for 34 years. I tell everybody the reason I'm a captain in the Navy is because my very first senior chief. So personally, I expect more from the chief's mess than maybe your average officer or sailor. But I know what it did for me. And so I think it really matters having the right person in the right position at that right pay grade when you're out there dealing with 200 plus E3 below sailors.
Yeah. I got one more question connected to that, then I'm gonna shut up. I know Damon and Joey got a bunch of questions. My last question connected to just that idea is I read an article that was published in Divots today, right? An article published in Divots today that quoted you saying that carriers where every department has a master chief, like we are seeing carriers where every department has at least one master chief for the first time ever, right? That was the quote in the Divots article. So my question is, and I know like you were using that as an example whenever you were being interviewed. Are we looking at carriers like a measuring stick of success of this program? So, i.e., like, is manning a carrier the greater good of all of this, right? Like when we sit back and look, we like, hey, we are. The reason why I'm saying that is because at some point you got some other commands like the ceremonial guard, for instance, that we'll kind of talk about later. Is that in the picture when we talking about the success of the program right now?
So when we look at the measuring stick is how many master chiefs are sitting in a master chief billet. So we're closing the gap. So they're what we call misalignment, right? So either there wasn't a master chief in the billet at all, or there was a senior chief doing the master chief work, or even in some cases a chief doing the master chief work, based on what the billet requirement was, right? And so the measuring stick is that 94% of master chiefs sitting in a master chief billet. The goal would be to get that as close to 100 as possible. I'm not one of these guys who says it's going to be 100%. I don't think it'll ever be 100%. Just through the natural churn of the Navy, you're always going to have people detaching. You're always going to have people, you're not going to get that face-to-face turnover. There's just going to be places where it happens. And quite frankly, again, when I go back to, we're still down about 11,000 in inventory. I probably don't have every master chief. Well, as a matter of fact, I know I don't in some rates have every master chief I have a billet for. Because when they were selected and then they chose to retire. And I'll tell you a couple other key things that we look at, because a lot of times I get, well, you're forcing everybody to retire. Retirements have not went up. Master chief retention has actually gotten better through SAM. So retirements have not went up. And so watching that very closely, because I hear that all the time, that I'm making people have to make that hard decision. I say me, I don't mean me, the Navy, but we're making people, make these hard decisions, but the numbers are not there. I mean, we watched this thing so super close. We briefed senior leaders. It was just even a few weeks ago, we briefed CNO on SIM-BBA distribution and the impacts. So every senior leader in the Navy, next week I'm briefing the Assistant Secretary of the Navy on SIM-BBA. So your very senior leaders are watching this, and I have to be able to account for that stuff. So again, there's not just the carriers. That's just one of the things that we use. And then I don't know if you guys know Fleet Walker or not. Me and Fleet Walker spend a lot of time together, whether we want to or not. It's just the nature of our jobs. He was Lemoore 2 tours, I think he told me. And, we was out there together not too long ago, and he said that's the first time that he could ever remember every maintenance master chief's parking spot actually had a master chief's name on it, or a squadron had a master chief's name on it and not a senior chief in Lemoore. So that's another place, Lemoore sometimes, especially from a 113 guy there, Lemoore is not somewhere where everybody is jumping in line to go. Yes, right. So when you look at, you're filling those opportunities, which is, key right now, based on what's going on in the world, having that maintenance master chief being the experienced master chief, not saying the chief couldn't do it, but having that senior, that master chief there with the experience to take those young sailors to sea, especially in a combat situation, to me is just as important as how many master chiefs are on the carrier.
Yeah. Command ain't billeted to have a master chief for nothing. So I do totally agree and understand that.
Hey, I got a quick question for, it's something I think just not too long ago came up with the 30-month vice 24 months. What was the read? I was thinking it maybe went back, shifted the other direction when I was thinking it was happening, but it moved to 30 months out. What was the reason behind that?
Couple things. You're right. A lot of people wanted 12 months, but you know how much churn that would create? There's no value in 12 months, personally. You talk Amex scores, SurfMex scores, you're talking about your qualified bodies leaving in 12 months, forcing them to move, because let's be honest, if I'm screened and I want to get paid and I want my time and rate to start, I'm getting on that first opportunity, or at least putting my name in the hat for that first opportunity because I want that to happen. And so the 12 months and 18 months thing, was going to be detrimental to readiness because that was the sailors, even though they could still do it, if we forced them to do it, it's going to be worse than if we just give them opportunity. And quite frankly, the 30 months, so 24 months put them right. Their last time to look for orders was right when they would be going back in front of the board. Because if you don't, as senior master chiefs screened, if you don't pick orders, you have to go back in front of a board. And I will tell you guys, those statistics, you don't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
It's not favorable from what I've seen so far. I will tell you that 92% of the senior chiefs and master chiefs are picking orders in their first 12 months. So as long as we have an over 90% selection rate in the first 12 months, not meaning they're going to leave in the 12 months, but at least they got a set of orders.
Yeah.
You go. Again, that's a good measuring stick because anything above 90% in the Navy is pretty damn good. I mean, just being honest. I mean, you guys been around a while like I have. It's hard for us to get 100% on a whole lot of things. So if we get 92% of the people saying, hey, coach, pick me, put me in, I want to go play in the first 12 months they're eligible, that's a good place to be. And so the 30 months was looking at, we wanted to give, and I know we'll talk about it a little later, some of the mill-to-mill, some of the other things that happen. Life happens. Let's be honest. You know, the more senior you are, the more life happens to you unexpectedly sometimes. But even on the mill-to-mill side, we wanted to give sailors some flexibility. I may have just got to shore duty. I may want to stay a senior chief on shore duty for 2 years and then pick a set of orders to go be a master chief because I need a break. And when you talk some of the ratings, their only opportunity to go fill that master chief billet may be in sea duty. And so we wanted to create a little bit of flexibility there for the sailors, again, with the over 90% selection, people selecting orders in that first 12 months. I didn't see any value personally, and this is exactly how I briefed it to leadership. No value in crushing people, making them force 12 months. To me, that would have forced more retirements, would have forced more, maybe geo bachelors, a lot of other things that we're giving them the 30 months to kind of plan out. I need to catch my breath before I jump on the next, thing floating. It give them a little bit of space to maneuver. So that's really where it came from, is just thinking about what we do that helps the sailors and not force them into making a quick, hard decision that they may not make 6 months from now.
Makes sense.
All right. Hey, I got just a couple facts for a minute. This right now, we talking about SIM, we talking BBA. BBA applies to all rates right now, and except for sub, nuke, special warfare operator, MU, TAR, CELRES. The latest literature we got from SIM BBA is NAV Admin 22125. That was in December 2025. The advancement manual just got updated on a 22nd of January, 21st, 22nd of January, around that time. And then the BBA handbook came out January 28th. If you are familiar with, Chief Sawyer down here, you know all of those things, right? You got it from his Instagram, and things like that. My quick question for you, Captain Harmon, is can you just give a quick explanation of CA2P and A2P? I would say for dummies, but in this case, I'm going to say for Damo. So a quick explanation of CA2P and A2P for me to understand, even though I know it.
So CA2P, but let's break it up in two ways because it's a little bit different. Sea and shore, right? CA2P, I don't know how long you guys have been in. I've been in since 92. So I was a sailor who got Capt, command advanced to position. Mm-hmm. And then we turned it to MAP, right? And now CA2P is nothing more than MAP, with the exception of we're asking for, if you're on sea duty, we're asking for a couple things. A 36-month obligation, meaning you got to extend your EAOS for at least 36 months from the day you get promoted. And you need to remain on sea duty for 36 months past the day you get promoted. Now, if you're on a 60-month sea tour and you're in year 2, and looking at the data, guess where most people got mapped? About year 2 at the command. Occasionally there was others, but looking at the general, on the average, most sailors were getting meritoriously advanced at year 2, 3. So if you're on a 60-month sea tour as an E4, E5, and the command advanced you to position, and from the day you're advanced, we're looking to get 36 more months on that current sea tour. And in some cases, that's not changing their PRD. I get that question a lot, but you know, I look at my AOs and my ABHs and my ABEs. You've got those 60, 48 month sea tours. We're not adding to their sea time. You know, CS is there another one, 68. There's a lot of sailors. OS has got FCA's got these 60-month sea tours. ETs. I mean, I can go down the list. If you're advancing them, which you probably know as a command, as a triad, whether that sailor's ready for the next pay grade at that 2-3 year mark, you're not asking them to stick around that much longer. In some cases, nothing any longer than their PRD. So that's the one thing is on C, you got to give us 36 months past the day you get advanced. You got to officer for 36 months from the day you get advanced, and then you have to have passed the current. So if you're an E5. So E5 to E6, right now it would be an RKE, or you P&A'd the last Navy-wide advancement exam, right? So even the nukes and the SEALs and the others that are not playing, they could still be CA2P as long as they P&A'd the exam, and there's a billet. The other thing is there has to be a valid, funded, vacant or will be vacant in the next 6 months billet for them to promote into, right? So you can't just promote them because you want to. There has to be the desire, the need there. And then the last thing is, you know, obviously they got to be recommended for promotion and all that stuff. But to me, as a prior CO, having that decision space, I call it a skipper's risk, right? That command pin that you wear, that's your risk pin. How much risk are you willing to take? And I know my sailors, and even when I got the map sailors, you know, it was heartbreaking when they got out of the Navy 12 months later, because I didn't get to ask them to stay longer. I didn't get to ask them, you know, are you staying? I didn't, you know, I probably could have, but I couldn't require it of them. And so that's the sea side of it, right? The shore side, the only difference is on the shore side, you must officer for 36 months past your PRD, so that we can get you back out to sea. And so I know a lot of sailors on the shore side don't like it. But I would tell you the numbers, the last time I checked the numbers, the last cycle of CA2Ps that was pushed through, it was over 400 and so, which is not bad. And we recently, the guys in Millington, they've created a tool called Bootstrap that we're trying to get out to all the commands. We're getting it out to the TICOMs and to the ISIGs, but it will tell you every sailor that's eligible to be for a CA2P. It would tell you every billet in your command that you had that's available for you to CA2P into. And I, you know, that alone, the commands that we've displayed it to, and the reason they, you know, I don't know who come up with the name, so I'm not going to credit anybody with the name, but it's like pull yourself up with your boots, perhaps, right? Yeah. Like we're giving you an opportunity to promote some sailors and keep them on your team, and keep them in the fight. And I, you know, when I brief triads, my thing is I look at separation data. The reason sailors leave the Navy is not because of money. That's far down the list. That's number 9 on the list of when we compile data. The number 1 thing is leadership, their command leadership. The number 2 thing is their command climate culture. So I tell triads, if you create the atmosphere where sailors want to be on your team, you guys know what you've been there. If you create that atmosphere, sailors will stay. They will stay. They would. If that's your top sailors, they will stay with you and stick around a little longer. Again, on the shore side, just looking at to get them back out to sea. Because I'm, again, being honest, missing the 2 years of recruiting in 22 and 23. Well, you know when those gaps are going to hit the fleet? 27 and 28. Because those sailors that we didn't bring in would be our E5s and E6s, and we're not going to have them. So, you know, we're hoping that with the CA2P piece, it'll allow sub-commands to, we call self-heal, but like they can pull a lot of these sailors, these hard charge and superstars, give them an opportunity to promote them. And I've seen sub-commands that there's one carrier who promoted 48 sailors in one day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's amazing.
Carrier stuff, that's incredible.
You ain't mapping 48 sailors in one day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but does that answer everything?
Yeah. Now, it's a part of this where just with CA2P, it's also a part of it where ISIC has a say. ISIC could also have a say in this, right? Right, sir?
Yes. ISIC could actually move sailors. So let's say you're at the squadrons and the wing there, your sister squadron has a vacant 81 billet, and you have a couple AE2s that are up for CA2P, but you can't move them. The ISIC can, if the sailor agrees. Sailor has to agree. That's the key to all this. Sailor has to agree. They have to agree to obligate. They have to agree to stay on board. And then they would have to agree to move to that other squadron. But as long as the sailor agrees, yes, the ISIC could move them over and CA2P them to another squadron. And then even at I don't see the TICOMs getting involved as much, but we want to give them the picture so they can actually see what's going down below. And I recently briefed one of the TICOMs and demonstrated the tool to them. And I know that their flag leadership is really interested in seeing how we could use CA2P to fill some of their critical gaps with some of the sailors that are already on board, already trained. Again, if you create the atmosphere, sailors will stay on your team, in my opinion, and in most cases I'm seeing there's not a whole lot. There is some sailors doing 6 years of sea duty, maybe some doing 7, but the majority are still got enough time left at sea anyway on their PRD that they're not actually extending their PRD on sea duty.
Yeah. Now, I got a question, and it's connected to Chief Sawyer as well, but like connected to you when it comes to information. And a lot of our questions came in about sailors asking about, are we going to mandate some InfoCon or something about SIM-BBA? And I think this is more like a how you feel kind of question. Because you go to these CDSs and you talk to a bunch of sailors, and I'm sure you enlighten them, but we rolled this thing out pretty slow, right? And I'm not holding anybody to the fire. I'm not indicting anybody, right? But it kind of rolled out in segments. I think at some point it was DC-men there. I saw EMs there. That was like phase 1. And then we hit a phase 2, and then we hit like a phase 3, and then we did this. Then we added Master Chiefs, and we added Senior Chiefs, and we added Chiefs. So we took like 4 or 5, 6 years to really roll this thing out. So now we about 4 to 6 years in, maybe 5 or something like that. And it's still people expressing that they got gaps in like knowledge and asking like when leaders are going to learn and all of these things like that. Is that, well, I guess I'll just be frank. Is that a disappointment at all that the information is not getting to? Well, my other point was that a lot of these younger sellers are learning this in real time, like when it's time for them to like make a career. And so my first question for you, Chief Sawyer, is that some of the impetus that made you be like, hey, let me turn my camera on and give these tidbits of information so that sellers could kind of deal with them in real time? And then my question for you, Captain Harmon, is going to be, is that disappointing? And are you surprised by how much sellers are learning when you go to these CDSs?
Yeah. So I'll answer real quick. 100%. I get tons of DMs, tons of feedback on a lot of that information, especially like when I did put out those videos about BBA, about SEM, because there was a lot of lack of knowledge. And then there was a lot of misinformation from the he said, she said rumor mill about what sailors perceived was the truth when it was far from it, unfortunately. And it seems that there's just a lack of, for lack of better terms, knowledge on where to find the information, although it is all there on my NAVHR. But I think it really is. Yeah, everything. And that lack of understanding that all these resources are on my NAVHR, I think, is one of the huge issues overall. is that if leadership was taught to navigate my Navy HR a little better, it might help break some of this down a bit easier so that the information could be put out a lot easier to our sailors.
Yeah, and you know, and I'll piggyback off that a little bit. So there's an NC conference, Command Career Counselor Conference in Lemoore the week of May 4th, and there's 630 career counselors across the fleet going to be out there. Like we maxed out the capacity, right? And my team, I plan to be there on day one if there's some other things going on up here as the DC world goes, and I don't have any control over my calendar. But if I have any kind of control, my intent is to be there on day one to do a BBA sim policy lecture, right? And then my team's going to stay there all week, and a team from Militant's going to stay there all week because, my NCs out there is really the key that's going to pull all this together, because that's who the sailor is probably going to talk to the most, especially when it gets career decision time. And so we want to arm them. And then what I do, and I'll be quite frank, on the CDSs, I'm not a fan. I don't get the audience. I don't get the questions that I get when I just do an all hands. So I did an all hands here in Norfolk and Little Creek about 3 weeks ago, one day, one the next, and plan to go back again. I've done them out in San Diego. My team went to Hawaii and did them. We get a lot better questions. We get a bigger audience, and we get everybody from an E3 to a Master Chief sitting in the audience and asking questions. CDSs, it's just the kind of people, they listen to you brief, they don't say a lot, they don't ask a lot of questions, and they go on about their business. If you're lucky, they come up and find you afterwards and ask a couple personal questions. But I see more value in going around and doing the all hands and doing the triads. And then to your question about disappointing, absolutely, especially when I go in and I roll in with a NECs and all their COs and XOs and their CMCs, and it always starts out about telling me how bad CM and BBA is. And when I start asking them, where is that coming? You know, what's their data? Have they read? They haven't even read the first staff admin. They haven't read Chapter 13 of the Advancement Manual that talks about BBA. They haven't read Chapter 10 that talks about CA2P. They haven't done any of the homework. They just tell me how bad it is and how it doesn't work. Ironically, when I did that with about 13 triads, there was 2 triads there who loved it, 11 who told me how bad it was. Those 2 that loved it, their manning was above 90%. And I'll tell you, what this skipper did was brilliant. He posted every sailor that was eligible to be CA2P, he posted in the P-Way. And every billet that was going to come available, he posted in the P-Way. He told me his performance and his qualifications from his sailors were through the roof. And he was pulling those sailors up. He was promoting his E5s to E6s to fill his vacancies that were coming. And he was and this was a sea duty command, and he was pulling his E4s up to his E5s. And then there he was, so his vacancies were more at the apprentice level, which recruiting is doing an outstanding job the last couple of years and on track to have a record year this year. And they're going to fill those lower vacancies. But again, when recruiting can't fill those, and we personally, detailing is not going to fill them because we're not going to have them in inventory. So if the commands don't educate themselves and create the atmosphere to encourage sailors to, 1, stay in the Navy, and 2, potentially stay on their team through these command advanced opportunities, we're going to see our apprentice gaps that we just lived through here the last couple of years. We're going to fill them at the journeyman level. And so I really disappointed when commands haven't educated themselves on CA2P, or just BBA in general, or SIM. To me, that's key for taking care of your sailors, right? You guys are CMCs. You know, your number one mission is heads and beds. Like you need to make sure those sailors are fed, they're well taken care of, and that's, I hold skippers and XOs. I mean, I think they need to be a part of that too, because again, if we take care of the sailors, they'll take care of us. Like I said earlier, I'm in this uniform today, or I'm a captain today because of a senior chief, and he used to tell me, you're only as good as your people make you, and your people is only as good as you make them. And it took me a while to realize what he was talking about. But you, as you get more senior, as all of you are, you realize how important it is to take care of your sailors. So when I go out and there is this big knowledge gap and the leadership level, I'm extremely disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Now, I got a question just for the three of y'all, because I got a CMC, I got captain, I got an NC. Is somebody somewhere listening and they like, nah, Damo, like we really don't have enough time, right? I don't have enough time. I got the advancement manual. I opened it up. I started looking at it. Then I had like 3 to 4 seller issues or whatever like that. I never got back into it. More seller issues. I'm inundated with things every single day, all this stuff right now. I got my own answers to those questions, but just from your perspective's point of view, and maybe starting with you, Chief Sawyer, then the Damon, then the Captain Harmon, just to kind of get the full picture. What's some advice that y'all would give to some of those like high op tempo commands on how to like take a pause and figure out how to get this information out there, whether it's taking a pause or not?
I think from my perspective in the NC world, there's always going to be work coming in, always customer service, always people needing to route 1306s, reenlistments, whatever the case is. And there's very rarely a true emergency that I have to deal with at that very moment. And so there's going to be times where you just got to shut the door for an hour or two so you can take that brand new information, you could download it, you can decipher it. So that way you at least have a baseline level of knowledge, because you know you're about to get a flood of questions on it, especially, with things when the advancement manual did get updated. That was one of the things I did. I shut my door. Thankfully, I got 2 NC1s that work with me. They handled the frontline stuff, and I was just able to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to make sure I understood everything. Then I was able to brief my NC1s, and we were just able to march on. But you have to find that balance of ensuring that, the work's going to continue. And so sometimes taking that strategic pause and realizing that maybe what you think has to be done right now, that can maybe wait 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours for you to be able to interpret this new information and be able to put it out properly to avoid things like shooting from the hip.
There's several ways I think you can, do this. I'll be honest, I'm one that don't like to read either. I mean, like, I go through Nav Evans and I look for the highlights, but there's a lot of great stuff that my Navy HRPAO and them put out with the handbooks, trying to get it smaller. There's the FAQs. They do a lot of things. They're looking, creating a knee board, which is a 1-pager with some highlights to get out there. But I go back to my XO days and a plan of the day. XO always puts a quote, a question. I can remember back in my early days as a young sailor, when it was around test time, there would be, and when we used to do BMRs, or BMRs were more, but there was always a basic military requirement question in the plan of the day every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
You could easily put one line in the plan of the day every day to address CA2P and SIM. One line. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't have to read the whole chapter. You wouldn't have to read the whole nav admin. You could take one thing out of there. You can make sure it's correct, and you could put it in the plan of the day. Now, granted, maybe a lot of sailors don't read that, but if it's one line about CA2P or SIM, chances are they're probably going to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I apologize. I did have a quick question. I kind of want to circle back on CA2P, specifically looking at shore duty, sir. So I've noticed specifically for my command at Swarmic, we would love to be able to promote sailors via CA2P, but we are fighting 2 main issues. The first is my AMM does a great job, but the second is that 6-month requirement for that bill to be vacant. Is there any potential in the future maybe to expand that for shore duty? Because I understand that timeline when it comes to sea duty makes sense. Excuse me. But if there's a little bit more wiggle room for shore duty, we might be able to get away with potentially promoting some of our sailors, especially at my command. We're very engineer heavy, and they are driven, a lot of them, by the potential to promote.
Yeah. when you talk about the 6 month, you mean the 6 month, long as the billet's going to become beta in 6 months, you're saying expand that to 12 months?
Yes, sir.
Probably not. I won't say, so I say this all the time when I give these talks. It goes back to a conversation earlier, like, why have we been so slow at rolling this out? Because we're still building the damn airplane, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're still looking for tweaks and peaks. Change one of the advancement manual, my Master Chief's working on it right now. There's things that even after it came out that we want to make some adjustments on. Still looking at things like final multiple score, just made a change to that, right? On the RKEs. Looking at, do we institute a P&E on the RKE like the P&A? These are just things that we're still building it. So not to say that it's not in the front of my mind of changing it, not to say that it wouldn't change as we get, as this continues to move, we get healthier, we get a chance to continue to look at this. BBA is not going away. I mean, that's, the TARs, we're in conversation with them about bringing them in. I know, mentioned earlier, they weren't in. I'm constantly talking to the NUCs and the SOs and the SBs. And so my goal, depending on how long I'm in this job, and hopefully I don't get fired before my time is up, but, would be to have everybody in. The cell revs would be really hard, really hard because of the way their billet base is. And the MUs would be really hard, but just about, everybody else, I think there's a way forward. And looking at things like the non-nuke submarines are already come into SIM. Like, so the natural thing is for a couple years of SIM, we'll have to roll it on down, because if not, they're going to create a bunch of gaps for themselves by promoting people up and not promoting the other people up. That's I'm not saying no. I'm not saying it's impossible. It just is not something at the front of the conversation right now.
Sure.
Yeah. My question is, you got something, Damon?
Yeah, well, first, I'm having some difficulties, man.
You got to get that question while you're in here, man.
Damo asked a question earlier about time, right? We just got to make the time. Sailors depend on us to make that time. So that's just something that just has to happen. And if you don't schedule, it's not going to happen. So you got to schedule it and you have to make that time. But I had a question about CA2P real quick. Was that when my AMO came to me, he had this list of CA2P and things like that. It had critical NECs on it. And I kind of know the answer because I talked to Fleet Walker on it. But for everybody, but everybody else, can those NECs be waived at all?
So I go back to my command. It's your command pin is your risk pin. If the CO and then me and Fleet Walker talked about this. If the CO says this is my guy or gal and I'm willing to take the risk if they don't have the NEC, yes, I at my level have approved every single one of them. They have to come up to my level because we want to track them. I know that Millington's looking at hoping to get to, and I can't, I don't want to promise this, but how serious we're thinking on NECs is Millington wants to get to the point where if you submit a CA2P and that sailor doesn't have the NEC, they want to send them to school for you and bring them right back to your command in the, with the NEC. That's the goal. And us, money's tight. So we're trying to work through that. Where do we work it? But talking to senior leadership, the flag leadership, I have the authority to say yes to every single one of those NECs. Now, if it's a critical NEC like SAR swimmer or something like that, it keeps you from getting underway, then that might be a different conversation because we would hurt the command. But for the other NECs, and I have my last trip to Lemoore, I put that out and I saw a whole bunch of ETPs for NECs for a lot of squadrons out in Lemoore, so they can CA2P some folks. So yeah, absolutely. Again, those sailors and your command better than I do. And so if you as a triad tell me that is my guy or gal and I want them to stay on board and they want to stay on board, I even see in some of the letters, CO says we will send them to school as soon as we can, or if we get a quota, or we already have a quota reserved. Like commands are actively working that to get the sailor to NEC. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we want to accommodate. I mean, again, we have COs and triads that do a whole lot of stuff, and we ask them to be responsible for a whole lot of stuff. And so we want to do everything we can to support them.
Question, just from your own personal thoughts, and maybe it's coming from some things y'all working on. You mentioned some things that y'all working on and rolling out and adding to the program. What do you personally think could be better about the program right now? Maybe some things y'all are already working on, or just some feedback that you've taken in from these CDSs and things like that.
I'll be honest. The biggest thing right now is our billet base. So if BBA has taught us anything, it has taught us that our billet base, when we went in about, manpower is your billets, manning is your sailors. When people go in to buy manpower, they're looking at the cost. They're looking at the dollar value. And we are historically always doing stuff on the cheap, right? Because we want to save every penny we can. And so when we go in and buy manpower, we don't necessarily buy the body we need. We just buy a billet historically. Why? Because you're going to give me the body I need. Like I found commands where we had chiefs in E5 billets because that command is special. And it's part of a bigger, national security apparatus. And so they're going to get everybody they want when they want. So it was just easy for them to go in and buy a bunch of E5 manpower and have 9 E5s at the command with 300 some people there. Because that was the easy button, especially for the manpower folks. Well, what billet-based advancement has done is, and it's done it across every rating. So every rating really needs to have as close to perfect pyramid as possible. And so we've done a zero-based review, and I've got a lot of ratings that look more like a diamond because everybody's billets are at the E5 level. And I pick on the OSs and the FCAs. They're probably my 2 worst offenders. But when you have a diamond shape, you never create enough E4s to fill your E5s when you're talking billet-based advancement. And then when you have everybody's in E5, you don't have enough, and then your E6s go in, you fill all those E6 jobs, but then your E7s go out again. You'll never fill all your E7s. And so I think, the thing that we hope this drives us to is it forces commands. It really seeks your resource sponsors to take a hard look at what their really requirement is, what their billet desire or need is. And then, working with the ECMs, which I work with on a daily basis, we want to scope a billet pyramid to where when a sailor comes in, and it's not always going to work in every rate, but most rates, you can have a pretty good pyramid from E1 to Master Chief, right? So Master Chief's supposed to be the 1%ers. So just, easy math. You should, so at the top, you should have around 1% of that rate should be Master Chief billets. And then you just keep kind of working its way backward. And again, on some of your more technical rates, E4 to E3 or E4 to E1, there's a little bit of, it's okay if it's a little bit offset. But really that E4 to E5 to E6 to E7 to E8 to E9, that needs to be about as close to perfect as possible. And so I think for me, not having that billet base right beforehand, but we'd have never got any traction on fixing the billet base if we weren't doing billet base advancements. Because we'd have still been putting E5s and E6 billets, we'd have been putting chiefs and senior chief billets, and everybody would have got what they wanted rather than fix their billet base. And so I for personal opinions and what my team is doing is mainly like we're making recommendations, but I can't change that. CMP, he can't change it because it's resource sponsor type stuff. And so it takes a lot of work to get the billet base right, but we have a team. And I think, again, if every billet base was perfect, would be pretty smooth. But filling the gaps, the advantage, and I'll use something else too. So 99% of the frock chiefs went in and applied for a billet the very first day they were able to in my Navy assignments. that, to me, that's phenomenal. And the other thing is all those that go to orders in October, November, or they get ARA'd, which we haven't even talked about, but it's CA2P for the Chiefs, really.
Yeah.
They got ARA'd. They started getting paid 1 October, and their time and rate's already started.
Yeah.
They're going to be ready for senior chief before those people who wait 24 months to pick a set of orders or get to the billing, right? And so last cycle, we saw 208 ARAs. So Frock Chiefs are now in the Chiefs billing.
Yeah.
Like we're crushing the money folks. The money folks, I get more complaints from them than anybody, because before we always promoted everybody in the last cycle, the very last increment. That's where the majority of our promotions come in. We spread that out so we don't have to pay it all at once. And now, the way we're doing it, there's more people getting promoted sooner than they ever were under the legacy system.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that as an individual, but when we look at our big Navy scope, we're promoting people way sooner in that increments than we ever were under the legacy.
Yeah. Now, what's the metric on, because I'm about to get to my selfish question in a second, then I got questions from listeners. So Damon, if you got more questions after this, please ask, because I got my selfish question. Then I got some about 15 questions from listeners. What's the metric on how this information is translating to detailers as far as the conversations that detailers are having with CMCs or sellers that's looking for orders and stuff like that?
Not as good as I would like.
Okay.
Just being up front. This is it's a learning environment, right? It's new. This is the first time we changed advancements in over 50 years. Mm-hmm. So it's new. Sometimes folks who've been around forever don't like new things. And so some people ignore it. Some people don't want to hear it. Some people tell me it just doesn't work. And so I say all that to say that there is certain, the communication flow is not what it needs to be to either, to the details, to the sales, quite frankly. And we're working on that. I work with the PERS 40 team daily. I do most of my trips with the PERS 40 team. And so we're trying to bridge that gap. But it's not at the level it should be. Just me, and that's just me being honest.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to hear that, because that validates, some of my, especially my personal thing. But Damon and Joey, do y'all got any other questions just from you guys? I got some listener questions after this, so I'm just trying to make sure y'all got y'all questions.
Yeah, I just got something on the Lamore thing real quick, maybe a selfish thing or whatever, but
we got to be selfish a little bit.
So when I look at all the billets for my command or whatever, I feel like I don't know what's going to happen with it, but when I look at it, it's no applications, right? Like that's one of the biggest frustration thing I think with a lot of people from Lamore is the fact of like nobody even applying for these billets. And I kind of know some of it maybe because of shore duties and things like that to stay out here. You got to go from sea to sea a lot of the times. But and we talked a little bit about it when you guys came out to Lamore.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, I guess sooner or later we gonna have to force some people out here to Lamore, right? Like I don't even know the solution for this.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but trust me, Lamore is important. It's the front of our conversations. Matter of fact, I got a meeting on Lamore Manning tomorrow, and so we're looking at every opportunity that we can to. Because we're with you. Like, I say 99% of the Chiefs applied. There was literally 150 people applied for the one damn shore duty billet in San Diego. Right? So and then the other 149 that did get it are going to complain that there's no billets in there. And you go back and you look at some of the people who screened Master Chief or Senior Chief who didn't go to a billet. They never applied for anything other than Jacksonville and they're stationed in Jacksonville. And they've done their whole career in Jacksonville. And they've made 5 applications in 2 years for Jacksonville. And then they're the same ones who says CMBBA doesn't work because as a Master Chief, I can't go down the P-way here to the C6 billet so I can stay in Jacksonville. The Navy don't need them to stay in Jacksonville. I need them to go out to Whidbey Island because I need an AWO or whatever out there, right? And so, Lemoore is one of those places where it's hard to homestead. Mm-hmm. They're just not shore billets out there. I'm working a couple projects trying to create more shore billets. That's dollars. And that's, there has to be infrastructure and a lot of other things, but there is some changes going to come. I think potentially to the way billets are advertised, the way you can see them, some things, because there is probably some cases where sailors are waiting for that one billet to pop in Jacksonville or that one billet to pop in San Diego, and we really need them to go out to Whidbey or to Lemoore or something, So we're having those conversations like how do we keep the West Coast Master Jet base manned, and quite frankly, some of this is just inventory too. Looking at comparing them side by side, Lemoore to Oceana, the VFA community right now, they just hurt. There is rates where we just do not have the inventory, especially the qualified inventory, and there's just that's where the CA2P is going to be crucial, is bringing some of those sailors up, and taking that chance that they don't have the NEC right now and figuring out how do we get them that NEC, but keeping them on the team and filling those gaps so that those gaps don't get worse. But trust me, I have at least 3 or 4 conversations a week about Lemoore, and I actually just went out there last week on vacation because everybody talks about it's such a bad place. My family never been there, so we went out through there. I took them there and went up in Yosemite, which was absolutely beautiful. Went up to San Francisco for a day, and I'm like, man, my wife's like, after 34 years in the Navy, you think you'd have tried to get us out of here sooner than this, right? So I think there's people. Whatever the stigma is about Lemoore, I think when you get out there and you see it, now I will say, as a junior sailor, it's a little harder to get around. Yeah. But as a more senior person, that's some of the best base housing I ever seen. Mm. Not to get off track, but only I'm looking at all that, and I just told CP recently, everywhere I go, I walk on base because I was a young sailor who showed up without a car, E1 on my first ship. I couldn't afford a car, and I had to walk. Mm. Luckily, I was in Mayport. Mayport's easy to walk everywhere. But I walked in Lemoore here a few weeks when me and Fleet was out there. They're like, you don't want us to drive you? I was like, no, because I want to see what that young sailor has to deal with, like getting around to the galley, getting around to the gym, getting from the barracks and getting over to the ops side. That's a little bit painful. We got to do better about that. Yeah. That's just some of the things and it's just not there. But I walk every base that I go to and do all hands because I like to get an idea of what the young sailors are having to deal with. Because it truly, quality of life and quality of service is what's going to keep some of these sailors staying in the Navy. And since I have responsibility for enlisted retention, that matters to me too. But.
Yeah. So my selfish question is, I'm at ceremonial guard, and I selfishly think that ceremonial guard wasn't really thought about when SIM and BBA were thought about. Like, I don't think somebody was like, well, what about the ceremonial guard? Right? So our billets, like the billets don't matter as much as having people in them. So like, we don't need an OSCS for anything. We don't necessarily need a BMC for anything. So here's my scenario. And shout out to Fleet, who, of course, it's a conversation for him, right? but we got a chief, ADC, right? He made chief after getting the orders. So he came as a first class, made chief after getting the orders, automatically kind of enrolled into SIM. He was at the guard before. He was a guardsman before. So
he did my funeral with me. I know exactly who you're talking about.
so you know who it is, right? So he was a guardsman before, and he is a superstar, right? He's a rock star, great chief, great guardsman. And as soon as he got there, it was like, hey, he has to pick orders and leave. And then I'm calling detail, and I'm like, hey, this here should be stroke of a pen. Like, this guy, he's got it, right? He came in, like, I'm still working on my qual. He came in, he got qual. Like, me and him talk, was like, yeah, we're going to work on this chief of the troop together. And then, commander of troops together. And then in 3 weeks, he was qualified. And I'm like, hey, man, what happened, man? He passed me up, right? But he got the experience. So he came, he led, he took over Collaterals, started doing stuff, doing a job, going on Navy weeks, doing things with you. Soon as he got there, it's like, hey, I'm picking orders because I might have to leave here. So I called detailer. I'm like, hey, no way. Like, this guy rocks. He's doing a job. He's doing everything he need to do here. Why would he have to leave? It's like, well, the only billet available is a BMC billet, and he's not a BMC. So he could compete for the BMC billet. I'm like, he's here already. We don't want the BMC because he's tried, tested. The BMC wasn't a guardsman. Like, it was, and then, on top of that, it's a mil-pers man that says my CO has to screen all E7 and senior people anyway. It's like, well, whether your CO got to screen them or not, SIM overrules all of that now. And I'm like, well, and shout out to the detailer. I don't think he meant any harm with any of this.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, man, this should be much easier than what it is. Can I ARA this seller into this billet? Come to find out, somebody picked the BMC billet. So the BMC billet then got filled by that person because my ADC didn't win because he wasn't a BMC. So we were dealing with this for a little bit. I came and griped about it on a podcast a couple times. I wound up talking to the branch head, and the branch head was like one of the branches. He's like, hey, just do an ETP. And I'm like, I talked to the detailer about this a long time ago, and the detailer told me I couldn't do an ETP. He was like, no, just do an ETP. So I know that's kind of layered. My last thought is that that's how ceremonial guard billets are, period, right? So I think we would be doing an ETP every time we fall into that scenario. I would think it would just be a way to just change that. And I know I got like a smaller command, and that's why I said it was selfish.
It's so. Is your billets Fact G? I haven't looked at them. Are they? So quite frankly, if you'd have done an ETP out of the gate because it's a Fact G, we'd have probably approved it to the BMC billet because we got it. The detailers are trying to force you into the rate specific, but on Fact G, they're how do I say this? If it was up to me, I'd kill all the Fact G billets. I'd make them all rated billets, right? I'd make it would be a BMC billet, period, not a Fact G billet. But the problem with that is when you do that, because most of your RDCs, most of your recruiters, a lot of your special programs, they're Fact G. Why? Because we want to send the best and the brightest and the superstar to that billet more than we care about the rate. However, we have to give all those billets a rate and a pay grade so that you get promotion opportunity. There was a BMC promoted because of that billet. So that's to help the detailers out. That's what they're looking at with billet-based advancement, is trying to make sure that the BMC that got promoted for that Fact G billet gets into that billet. But a Fact G billet, if you'd have submitted the ETP and being in ceremonial guard, without knowing all the details, I would, based on seeing all the ETPs, because every single one of them comes through my desk and goes up to CMP for SIM, for CA2P, they land with me. But he, for those, because I use White House. It's another good example. The other billets are wonky, like it's about because it takes so long to screen. DevGru is another one, takes so long to screen. We have these places in the Navy where it takes a while to screen, and we've been making exceptions to those, especially when they're Fact G billets, because we understand the process. Because I do believe that in the future, as the entire Navy shifts over to billet-based advancement, you will have less and less of these cases because your ADC will be coming to your ADC or your BMC Fact G billet as the frock chief, because that's about when you're going to you're going to be rotating about the time you're advancing. We mapped out, if you do a 30-year career with billet-based advancements from E4 to E9, and one of the admirals uses the term fast lane, slow lane, middle lane. If you're willing to, every time you're eligible to advance, to move to that billet, where, regardless of what it is and where it is, in that next higher pay grade, you could advance to the Navy and only do 2 tours in the same pay grade in 30 years. Mm-hmm. And one of those is going to be as a master chief. Mm-hmm. And chances are your other one's probably going to be as a E6 or a first class war chief, because you got to wait on the screen board to decide whether you're going to move on up, mm-hmm. right? But if you're willing to move and take what's available, as soon as you're eligible, you're going to move fast to the Navy. Now, and it's okay if you decide to get the middle lane and you just kind of take it the normal course, and then there's going to be people getting a slow lane, and they're going to wait 30 months before they make a decision, and that's okay too, but there's some risk, because you wait 30 months, you apply in that last cycle, and then you don't get selected for anything, and now you're going back up in front of the board. And for you guys here that's master chiefs, I'm just you don't have to answer, but I'm going to ask you, if you're sitting on that might be now board, and somebody who was screened for 30 months and didn't pick a master chief billet to go to, what's your thoughts on rescreening? Exactly. You don't have to answer. Right? Yeah. And so I met that guy. He was awesome.
Yeah, he's great. And so I guess, the kind of pinpoint to my question is, that all means that ceremonial guard will still be able to recruit like former guardsmen. Right, because that would be the goal, is to still find this guy that was a guardsman before, bring him back so they could lead and kind of do it again. But now that brings me to the first listener submitted question. It's a longer one, but I thought it was a good one, and it's kind of connected to this. It says, I'm currently in my first tour of a 2-tour program. With SIM effectively killing FACG billets, how are we supposed to stay in the program? So he says they want me to apply for billets within my rate, but rates attached to CCS billets appear to have been randomly assigned, and there is no consistency. For further context, my detailer just informed me, after I asked repeatedly, that the current policy is that any CCS billet I would like to apply for that's not my rate has to have already been advertised and no one selected for it. With that billet being an advancement opportunity for a SIM candidate, there's not a good chance of that. If I don't get any CCS billets after my 3 looks, I'm back to my rating detailer as needs of the Navy. If we are selecting SIM candidates as an avenue for advancement instead of keeping people in the program, we are not going to have the best people for the job. This is also a challenge at the school at Damo, as the school at Damo is only twice a year, and it's joint with the Navy assigned as a certain number, only a certain number of spots. I'm having trouble keeping the question concise, so if you need clarification, please let me know.
I'm very aware of the CCS issue. It's one of those that it is a 2-tour requirement. A lot of people come over, because quite frankly, if you're having trouble promoting in your parent rate, CCS has a very high promotion rate to senior chief, right? And so we see a lot of chiefs come over, and some of them, don't get me wrong, I think the majority of them do it because they enjoy that work and they really want to make a difference. But it is a very high promotion rate to senior chief. And that's one of those ones where every ETP that's went to the CMP for CCS, he has approved, because we are aware that it's a 2-year program, that there's other things in play there, and so that goes back to that communication, getting down to the right people and everybody knowing. But yeah, I'll tell you another billet, just 3 MCs. There's 3 MC billets that have this weird rate assigned, and I won't pick on any rates, but I want to tell you, in 34 years, I've never seen one of those as a 3 MC. But they got assigned 3 MC billets so that they'd have more master chief quotas, because when you look at their rating, they didn't have enough billets to have that good pyramid, and so a lot of those FACG billets, 3 MC being one of them, allowed them a promotion opportunity, knowing that that rate is never going to be a 3MC. So when we see an ETP for a 3MC, CMP has been approving every one of those as well. So those two right off the gate, we got to take a look at I got some ideas on the CCS one. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get ahead of leadership, but we have had, me and some of the senior listed leaders have had quite a few conversations. But yeah, unfortunately, that's one of those ones that it's going to take some ETPs to get that one through for now until we figure out exactly how to kind of build so ceremonial guard, I'll use you guys. You go into some of these niche small commands and we almost got to build a rating pyramid out of your Fact G billets. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So like we got to get the right number of V5s, right number of V6s, right number of V7s, right number of V8s, so that when a sailor comes there and they get screened, there's an opportunity for them to stay there. And when you get into these second tours, right, they're not, as a CCS, they're not going to stay at that same command. But if they're at the beginning of their second tour and we need that second tour out of them, that's where the ETP is going to come in. Again, I've seen quite a few exceptions and policies for CCS. So for a detailer to say that's not a way, I've been seeing them. Yeah. And they've been approved for the ones I've seen.
Yeah, and that's what fueled my detailer question earlier that you already answered, anyway. Another one, this is another longer one. Some of these ain't as lengthy, but this one says, I think there's a legitimate concern with command ranking only carrying 10% weight in the DGM. What we're seeing is applicants who were ranked number one by the command for billets, they also rank number one as their application rank preference, are still losing out to competitors who rank that same billet lower, third or fourth, but score higher overall due to other factors. The primary driver appears to be pay grade merit, worth 25% of the scoring element, section 2C. Applicants already in the pay grade receive full credit and in many cases are being selected over screened applicants who are not yet officially in the pay grade, even when those screened applicants are the command's top choice and have that billet as their number one preference. This effectively gives greater selection advantage to applicants who may not be the command's top pick for that billet and who may have ranked it lower in their preferences solely based on pay grade status. This creates a situation where pay grade holds more practical influence than both command endorsement and applicant preference alignment, which seems misaligned with the intent of selecting the best fit sailor. Additionally, I like clarity on whether these scoring elements are automatically generated once a sailor is screened and whether there's any visibility into those scores. A transparent scoring calculator will allow applicants to better understand their competitiveness and make more informed decisions in the marketplace.
So, sailor scoring criteria, I'm assuming it's what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So a couple things. For the E5s and E6s now, your FMS, your final multiple score, is 50%. So how well you do on the exam and your eval is 50% of your sailor scoring criteria. That's going to put your top sailors they're going to have a leg up. Now, the flip side, if somebody already in the pay grade, so I'll pick on my two master chiefs there. You've been a master chief, you're wearing it, you're doing the work, and you go apply for another master chief billet, you're gonna have a leg up. It wouldn't be fair to say the screen guy beat you out. And so I've seen some complaints about that because there'll be somebody who already wearing a master chief will apply for the billet that somebody screened to be a master chief applies for. 9 times out of 10, the person already wearing master chief is going to get the billet. It's going to be no different for senior chief. It's going to be no different than for the chiefs, right? Because we don't want to punish somebody. I don't want to say punish, but we don't want to take away from somebody that's already wearing it just so that the screen person gets their top priority, even if on the command side. The funny thing about the command ranking is only about 20% of commands are even going in there and putting any comments. So we went in and we pulled the thread on this. There is very little weight to the command stuff because nobody's using it. Mm-hmm. They say that, but we have very little evidence of the commands going in there and doing anything. And so I tell people all the time, you want to get the person you want, go in and use the command comments, because it carries some weight point wise. And I don't remember, because we just recently changed the scoring criteria. But it's like 15%. But if nobody's using it, nobody's getting that 15%. So you use it, you're getting the 15%, your command, right? And so sailor scoring criteria is another one of those things that we keep playing with a little bit. FMS was another one that we played with. I think FMS, if it was up to me, we'd get up to about 70%, because that way you're making sure that the sailor who has the highest score and the best evals have the highest chance of promoting and getting the position. So I want to lean more toward that. Obviously, I'm not the final decision maker on that, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm happy with 50%, but I think a little more would be better. I'm going 100% in support of somebody who's already wearing it having extra points. I'm also in for cumulative collective sea time there for if you're coming off sea duty. And you're applying for that Master Chief billet on shore, you should beat out the Master Chief who's on shore duty trying to go to a Master Chief to go right back to shore duty. So, there's extra points in there for that, for the sea. But I will tell you that Millington, Admiral Heames, Burst Ford, his team are working to come up with a way, and my understanding is it's already going out. But, like I go back and use that example of 150 applications to one billet, they're coming up with a way that looking at the sailor, looking at their NECs, their pay grade, their evals, their advancement exam, looking at everything, personal preferences, and going to send out, the goal is if sailors get some kind of notification. Ideally, it would be down to the text, but we can't, we don't have everybody's cell phone number. So we're working through the details, but they will get something that says, these are your top 10 choices from us. This is where you would best, based on what you've told us and what's available, these are the 10 billets we think you have the best chance of getting selected for. And when we talk to sailors about that, they like that idea, because a lot of them's not sure. And if they had a better idea of getting what they wanted, here's the 10 choices you got a better chance of getting, the 10 billets you got a better chance of getting. They like that idea. We'll see how it goes. I think that is in the very near future that'll be out, and that'll help some of that. But the whole point of, if you're already wearing it, it's going to be hard to and you're a screened guy, but your NECs is going to come in to account your if you're coming off sea duty, and then a lot of people don't like. We found one, personal preferences. So you go in there and you set your preferences in M&A, and I was dealing with a Screen Master Chief who didn't get any of his billets. But he was applying for San Diego, even though his preference was Japan. Yeah. And because his personal preference was Japan, he wasn't getting any of those points toward his applications to San Diego. So some of that is understanding that M&A. I think M&A is hard to use myself. I haven't used it, but I've watched people and talked to people. But the other thing is the sailors got to go in there and make sure they're setting, even when they set their personal preferences, because you get some points for that. If you set everything in Oceania and you're applying for all more billets, people that are got Lemoore as their personal preference is going to beat you out on those billets. So that's some of the things you got to look forward to.
Yeah. So another one from a listener said, for FROC CPOs, I thought this was interesting, and I'm sure there's an explanation for this. It says, does the minimum TIR of E7 and E8, 36 months, include them? Are they eligible for E8 at their 36 months if they haven't been paid, or it took the whole 30 months to get a line? Could they be eligible for E8 without getting paid for E7?
No. Their 36-month time and rate don't start until the day they get paid.
So, and that's coupled with like some people talking about, I gotta find it. Right here. It says, Sim, as I understand, as of now, your TIR for E9 eligibility does not start until you're paid for E8. With the long delays, is there any consideration for frocking and starting the TIR sooner? It says, I applied and was selected for orders in my first window after being screened about 11 months ago. Due to required schools, funding, etc., I will not be paid until this November. Expected no later date for next command. So people in my shoes will basically have to wait close to 5 years to even be eligible for the next rank. Holding pay until you're in the appropriate billet makes sense. The year plus pause and limbo does not. And then somebody responded, they said, this also delays your high 3 at the screen rank, forcing you to have to potentially go beyond intended TIS. This really hits hard for the 7s that screened on the back end of their careers. I could wait on the pay, but having to wait on TIR as a frock chief sucks.
Yeah, there's no plan to change that, because I will tell you the majority of people are not going to be in that case. Now they only advertise. So the way the M&A cycles are, they advertise all the rollers plus 30% of the billets. Mm-hmm. So my guess is maybe granted they got a job in October, and they're probably one of those rates or one of those billets that requires a long training track to get to. But I just had this case. Person got orders, got frocked to senior chief, going to a pre-com. They were in San Diego. Everything was good. Pre-com was in Pascagoula. When they got time to go to Pascagoula, they no longer could go. They're now in due. Mm-hmm. So now I got this problem where this person's frocked. Now they want to do an exception to policy to get them paid. Not looking to, I'm not going to figuratively endorse that. Right? Yeah. You needed to get to that pre-com in Pascagoula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all those things kind of, I always say, I've done a lot of recruiting. The recruit man is like this thick. Why? Because somebody's tried.
Yeah.
Like all policies are written because we've all tried. And as soon as you find those loopholes, you create things. So again, on the frocking piece and the time and rate, we have data where people, officer for orders. There's like 6,000 people a year that take orders and don't observe and actually execute the orders prior to BBA and SIM. Mm-hmm. And so really trying to get that down to where you have to you're not going to get the benefits of the promotion until you're actually fulfilling the work. And in some cases, it may be a little longer. There's not a whole lot we can do about that, to be quite honest with you. Not looking to change it, because as soon as I can't just change it for a couple rates. You got to change it for everybody. And if you change that for everybody, where time and rate starts, and they wait 30 months doing the chief's work, and they already got 30 months time credit for senior chief, and they actually only go for 6 months as a senior chief in a billet. Now what, is that fair to the guy or gal who went immediately to the senior chief billet and got their time and rate started? So part of that is to encourage you to go quick. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's going to be times in the cycle where you may only have SID duty to choose from. Right now, it's about a 55-45 split. So about 45% of the billets that are being advertised are shore duty when I look at it across all ratings. Some ratings, it's less than that. Some ratings, it's more. I'm surprised that one of the most seagoing rates in the Navy, all their master chief billets are shore duty. Mm. You make the master chief, you're golden. You ain't ever going back to sea. I was shocked to learn that. I learned it in this job. Mm-hmm. So I say all that just to make, a guy, I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, the reason we did the whole frocking thing, not paying you, is because so many people fell out prior to getting there and actually performing the duties of the billet that they were promoted to go do.
Yeah.
And so that's where all this comes from.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it's a scenario where somebody is holding out on picking a billet and they're holding up somebody else from promoting into that billet, right? And I know you spoke to I know you already spoke to when Chief Sawyer brought it up, like y'all already looking into ways to fix that problem too. So the dual mill thing, you talked about it. We talked about it. Here's one of the questions. Dual mill was never one. This is the way I'm reading these as people wrote them, right? So, dual mill was never once brought up in discussions when establishing this program. When senior leadership has to decide between advancing their career and their families, we lose CPOs and SCPOs who are making an impact on the deck plates. C-ensure rotations for dual military were established to ensure family care and career advancement. Now, if you want to advance, you may hinder your spouse's career because if you have children, unless you both go back to sea, one will be on shore. How will this keep senior enlisted with experience in the Navy ready for wartime?
So, I will be honest, I haven't seen many cases where mill to mill was impacted. I'm not saying that they didn't happen, but very few has been brought to our attention. And the one or two that was brought to my attention, it was ironic that the individual, everything that the detailer offered the spouse, they didn't want. They only wanted a certain billet, or they didn't want to do anything at all, which was unfortunate because then it just makes it harder on the other mill-to-mills who are trying to do, everything they possibly can to do what the Navy asks of them. This question comes up a lot. So we're not fortunate. Again, when I go back to billets advertised, if both people are screened, and there's a few, I forgot what the number is off the top of my head, but there is several every cycle that's mill to mill screened at the same time. And one of them will have to choose shore duty and one of them will have to choose sea duty, just like they always have, right? Depending on who that is, they choose. And so the problem or the case could be, again, this is what they got to look at. There may not be a shore and a sea billet for 2 9s in Norfolk, but there might be a sea and shore billet in Lemoore for 2 9s. Mm-hmm. So, do we want to move to Lemoore? I mean, this is the reality, right? Mm-hmm. You were promoted the reason you were promoted because there was those gapped billets that were coming up in your rating. And so you were screened to fill those. And so that's most of the cases I've seen, they're like, well, there's no billets right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not, but there is 2 billets that you could both go to, one sea, one shore in this other location. Well, we don't want to do that. So that's the downside. I got it. And Millington's thing is, if one goes, they will get the other one there, within a year, I think is how is kind of what we've laid out. Unfortunately, if they choose to go somewhere where there isn't a billet for both of them, that could mean one of them is delayed. That's unfortunate. But again, it goes back to if there's 2 billets in a location, that both of you one could go sea, one could go shore, you may have to choose to pack up and move in order to make sure that both of you get promoted.
Yeah. And then the last, it's a couple more, but I think the last one that speaks to a bunch of this is somebody's asking about, will it ever be a time, right, where an E6, let me just read it. With the expansion of BBA, why are screen E7s with PCS orders to a first-class billet not allowed to re-enter the negotiating window, even if only for 3 to 5 additional looks, to attempt to obtain E7 orders? This not only affects High 3, but TIR, also it delays their clothing allowance. This could potentially cause screen sellers to be in a first-class billet for up to 30 months. So I think they bringing up my ADC scenario, right? Just got to a command, now got to pick orders. Vice, how come he didn't stay behind?
So this has come up a few times actually. You can when the chief results come out, if you'd already got other orders, we had a case where a service member they picked E6 orders in June. Results come out in July, early August, whatever it was. They went through the season. They didn't go back in the marketplace. initially because they didn't think they could.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was because somebody told them they couldn't or whatever, but luckily for them, somebody at their command knew me personally and emailed me and said, hey, why is this way? The reality is they can go in there and play until they execute those orders. We don't want them to execute the first class orders. We want them to go back in the marketplace and play for chief. But a lot of them are being told they can't.
Mm-hmm.
I've reconfirmed with the detailing team down there, they can go back and play. And if somebody runs into the case where they're not allowed to go back in the marketplace as a prop chief and they got orders to an E6, I take emails all the time. I'm the only Charles.R.Harmon in the global.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to email me because I want to fix that problem. Because that doesn't help the Navy to put a frocked chief in an E6 billet. Matter of fact, it takes away an E6 promotion because I need that E6 billet to be available for some new E-screen D5 to go pick orders to go to.
Yeah.
And so, and I believe there is a misnomer, or there's people that don't know the policy, or maybe there's people that is enforcing something they shouldn't be, forcing some of these frock chiefs to go for field. Now, if you made it in, you were executing 6 orders right at the season and you went immediately, there's not a whole lot I could do about that, right? You had to go do that. But we're also trying to track those down and keep them to a 12-month minimum. Yeah. So if they executed in October, November, right after season into those first class orders, the goal is to get them out of there within a year, which sucks for the command, which sucks for the member. But that ball is already in play. And we don't know what the Chiefs results are going to be. So we don't want to stop cutting E6 orders, waiting for the results to come out. And so that makes it's going to be hard. There's always going to be some that roll right into a E6 billet as a frock chief. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, right after season, but ideally by the ones, if you're December or later, you're getting back in there. At a minimum, you're calling a detailer and seeing what you can take as a chief. Yeah. That there may be some award billets out there that needs a chief in them that's been advertised that nobody's taken, and there might be an opportunity to put them in it. And that's one thing I don't think we'll be able to fix, because again, we don't want to shut off the E6s going to E6 billets waiting for chief results, because we won't know whether they made it or not.
Yeah. And you answered it. You answered this already. Like in another answer, this question, it's the op-hold question. You kind of already answered it a little bit, but the question is this. I just said my last question was my last one. This is legit. It says, how many ETPs for early promotion actually get approved? Not those in current travel zone, right? So it says, with the amount of sellers that are being upheld, I'm dealing with that now. My BMC who got the bill that we wanted the ADC to get, he got upheld, right? So it says BMC now, but frock. It says, with the amount of sellers that are being upheld to support their current command's mission, triads are put in a bad spot telling someone they will be postponing their pay because of low manning levels and ships being deployed.
Yep. Every uphold ETP that has come forward has been approved.
Nice.
Because that's no fault of the sailor.
Yeah, nice.
We're not going to penalize the sailor. I think the problem is the commands are not submitting them. They're upholding them, but they're not submitting the ETP. Matter of fact, I just pushed one through the pile earlier this week for a senior chief who's being upheld until January 2027 before he goes to his master chief billet. Mm-hmm. He's going to become a master chief and start getting paid.
Yeah, that's a game changer right there. And
because it's no fault of his that they're upholding him essentially almost a year. And so that was those, again, I haven't seen a single uphold be denied. If it has been, I would encourage people to resubmit it, because I wasn't tracking it. Initially and I'll be honest, when SIM and BBA first started out, it's really all billet-based advancements. The goal is to get away from calling it SIM. It's all billet-based advancement. It's all enlisted marketplace, right? They're all enlisted going to play in the marketplace, and everybody's going to be billet-based advancement. But when we first started, there was a lot of no's to the ETPs because we had to break the cycle of continuing just to do the norm. If we approved every ETP, then everybody would have just submitted an ETP and actually not tried to get in the system and start to play in the marketplace and actually negotiate for billets. So there was a lot of no's initially. ETPs for Master Chiefs, I see very few now. Very few for folks. Like I said, the upholds, I've seen them across all 3 pay grades, and CMP has approved every single uphold ETP that's went across this desk. And then I see very few ETPs for senior chiefs now. Still seeing quite a few for chiefs, as we expect for the first year, really 18 months. But I use that as we talk about, some data points. The fact that I'm not seeing a lot of Master Chief ETPs tells me that we've pretty much flattened out the process, right? And as I was seeing it slowing down with the senior chiefs, I think your ETPs that we'll see in the future are truly an exception to policy, and will probably be looked at pretty favorably. Initially, a lot of the ETPs was just people didn't want to break the old way, and they were just asking for the world rather than actually try to navigate the new process. And so I think 2 years from now, the ETPs that we see for the 7s to 9s will be so limited that it'll be hard to say no to, because they will be a no-kidding ETP.
Yeah, so my personal roundup, and I'm sure Damon got some thoughts too, but my personal roundup is education, translation of information at all levels, right? Triad level, sailor level, leadership level, detailer level, all that, especially when we talk about chiefs and senior chiefs that don't get ETPs, that's super duper education kind of disparity right there. And it happens too, right? It's a real thing that actually happens. So things like this, like you coming on something like this, having these kind of conversations, help Chief Sawyer doing what he does helps in those situations. And it's just about tapping in. That was the last listener question I had, and my last general question I had, period, for you, Captain Harmon. But Damon might still have some, so I don't want to kind of shortchange that.
No, I'm good, man. I most definitely appreciate both of you coming on, man. Joey, of course, we love seeing you out there, man. But sir, hey, it's so many questions out there that you didn't answer today about coming on, tapping in with us, that people gonna look forward to seeing. Because back to the ETP and things like that, people really is not reading nav admins, or they not tapped in, or people don't really understand the process. So I think you coming on really gonna help that. And for all leadership, we need to tap in, because sailors need that too.
Yeah, and it's still gonna be some people that was arguing with you while listening to the episode, right? Like it's some people that's blowing the lid right now, right? That's like, Damo, how come you ain't push back on this? How come you ain't push back on that? But and then for the listeners who wrote lengthy, listeners wrote 7-page questions, right? Like whole storybook questions. Love y'all for I'm sorry for real. I love them. I'm really love them. But I'm sorry that we couldn't get to them all. But what I hope that we did was get the trends, right? It was and we kind of did a percentage thing, and I sent it to the team, Captain Harmon, so I know they had it. And TIR, paid TIR delayed advancement was the big question. Marketplace fairness and scoring was a big question. Orders timing and delays, big question. Mill to mill, that took and we got percentages, right? So 15% of the people that submitted questions had to do with mill to mill. The information gap in training took about 10%. I think if anything, I learned in this conversation, the most I learned really was about that information gap, and the training. And we have to figure out, it's kind of like with Seller 360 when they were like, hey, commands own it. And then it's like, hey, how good is Sailor 360, right? It's as good as how your command makes it, right? Like, oh, Sailor 360 sucks. The Navy Sailor 360 program sucks. No, your commands Sailor 360 program sucks because they gave it to commands now, right? But thanks. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming and sitting with us and just, having a real conversation and getting after some stuff. These things don't get to happen that much. So we appreciate you, Captain Harmon.
No, man, I appreciate you getting me on. Any opportunity I get to get stuff to the deck plates, I will take that opportunity all day, every day. They make a lot of fun of me at work because I'm always TDY, because I'm always trying to get out to many of those locations as possible. Because I believe, I'm old school, man, face to face. If I can talk to a sailor face to face and they can hear it from my level, and hopefully that calms some of their fears. I'll tell you, after every all hands, the sailor comes up and say, "Hey, sir, I did not know that I could apply for shore duty billets, and I just got the shore duty because my command told me I could only get advanced if I go back to sea." That's disappointing, but I hear that quite frankly. And as soon as I told this sailor who was making plans to separate, that they can start applying for shore duty jobs in the next higher pay grade, they're like, if I get a job, I'm staying in the Navy. So I hope that I saved that sailor, right? And I go back to, we ask a lot of triads, we ask a lot of commands, and so I want to do everything that we can to support them. But as you guys are senior leaders out there, I say this to the senior leaders here in DC all the time. My biggest concern is making sure that we promoted enough sailors through the command advance to position to fill some of those key positions at these commands, because we're not going to have the sailor in an inventory to promote to. Even if we were still doing a Navy-wide advancement exam, we would have much greater gaps at the E5 and E6 levels in 2 years than we have ever had, because we had all those apprentices that didn't come in the Navy for 2 years. And so, billet-based advancement is going to be key to our success as far as fleet readiness, and making sure that we got the right sailor in the right place. And it's not going to work for every sailor. It's not going to work for every situation. There's going to be some hard decisions you have to make sometimes. And one of the other things which ironically you didn't bring up, but I hear a lot of as well, it's going to slow down advancements. Well, I'll tell you, looking at the 8 and 9 quotas, we're above the historical average. And that was another benchmark for me, is like, did we reduce the amount of 8s and 9s that we're going to, select? And we are above the 20-year average. And I'll keep watching that very closely, because, if I start seeing those quotas go down, then that'll raise some concerns. So, when somebody says you're slowing down advancements, that's just not so. We're actually seeing a higher rate of people screened. Same thing with retirements. I'm not seeing no big jump in retirements. Retirements are less for the Master Chiefs than they were the past 10 years. So there's some key indicators there that tells us, makes us think that this is working. And if I can fill the supervisory gaps at sea, I will say there, CMC, the gaps out there in Lemoore have gotten better across the supervisory pay grade, because I was looking at that too, but it's still got some ways to go. But we're seeing some positive impacts and effects from this. So again, gents, I really appreciate you giving me the time. Always willing to talk. I think the lieutenant told you, I've done a lot of recruiting, so my boss tells me I can talk to anybody about anything that means nothing at any time. So I'm very good at that. But no, I enjoyed the opportunity to touch base with you. Appreciate it.
Before you go, you made me think of one more question. I'm sorry.
I was no worry, man. I'm on your dime. You tell me when you want to stop.
This is the last one, legit, right? But you made me think of something, because I'm thinking about you and Fleet Walker. I'm thinking about y'all seeing like big numbers, right? Y'all getting the end result, these big picture numbers. This is this is that. This is how it look, laid out flat. Where a lot of the questions are coming from people with like anecdotal information. Like, I know this person right here that's dealing with this. Now, is it ever an idea for you guys to publish the numbers that you see, is it already happening and I just don't know about it? But is it ever an idea for other people to see, oh, this is what SIM and BBA looks like on a higher scale? It is a success, right?
I see no issue with publishing them. I brief them all the time. Whether I brief it, when I brief it in all hands, I have a slide that shows the percentages of chiefs, senior chiefs, and master chiefs who are taking orders within the first year. That's why I got it memorized. Right, I've briefed it so many times. I know what the numbers are. We're always looking at them, but we brief it from an all hands call all the way to CNO. We brief those numbers, and so there is no issue. And we probably don't post them, and that's probably a great idea, is to get it out there so they can see, especially with the E6s rolling in, or the E5s who took the RKE, this past March, when they start selecting orders here in June, July, probably August cycle. I think it's August is the first cycle they're eligible to start playing in the marketplace. It will be something I'm tracking very closely, because I want to, I've kind of, you go back to it's taking a long time to roll it out. Well, we wanted to create opportunity by pulling people up. And so, the Chiefs and the E6s went pretty quick, but the E5s will be a little bit longer before they roll in, because I need to get the E6s in there, or the E5s are going up for E6. I need to get them in there, get them in billets, so I can create some more opportunity for the E4s coming up. But again, I want commands to take advantage of the command advance to position as much as possible. The commands that are doing it, they're night and day from the commands that are not, quite frankly, on their manning numbers. And so I wasn't tracking that until somebody pointed it out to me. So that was a very again, another data point. So I think we can put a lot of numbers out there, and probably should. So that's a good idea. And Lieutenant's written this down, so I'll take that for action.
Thanks, Lieutenant. Yeah, like I said, Captain, thanks. We appreciate you. Have a good night. Thank you.
I'm like, you can't make this up, man.
Like, I'm talking about, we done went through a whole damn, we done went through a whole damn episode over, we saying our goodbyes, and Aaron done popped his ass up on here, man. Like, it's crazy right now.
Hey, write down your passwords, people.
Aaron missed the entire My Navy. Hey, Aaron, can you sit up a little bit? Can you?
Yeah.
Aaron missed the entire My Navy HR SIM BBA conversation, man.
Oh,
greatness.
My dog won't leave me alone.
Legendary. Hey, so not only was Captain Harmon with us, though, but Joey Sawyer is with us, man. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, man? Just happy to be here, bro.
Yeah.
Glad somebody is, man.
Yeah. So this, man, like, it's been, and we're gonna talk for a little bit, not too long. We just gonna hang out for a little bit. But this been it was kind of spur of the moment, because we hit you up to join us for this conversation, just because you're a career counselor. We needed that kind of voice in a room, or ear in a room. But before, even without all that, like, man, I think Aaron, a couple of weeks ago, he brought you up a clip of yours, and he, mentioned it. The next week, he mentioned it again, a different one, and then I mentioned one, and so then I'm like, we banned just, and it's your Instagram moniker, Fat Chief. We banned it. I'm like, yo, we ain't talking about Fat Chief till we get him on here, man. And it's been spur of the moment to just get you up on here, man, and have a quick chat with you, and just get some of why you do what you do, and all those things. Before we go there, though, I want to congratulate like the reservists that were selected for Chief, right? Yep. And after that, right, we gotta talk this DGM 007, right? We gotta talk this DGM 007 real quick, and then a couple Joey things. And like, for the listeners who want like the Joey episode, right? We talked about this. Like, you got an open invite. You could come back. We could have full kind of readout. But this DGM 007. Is my first question, right? Because things get weird nowadays. This thing is real, right?
It's real.
All right. So this thing is real. So it says alignment of enlistment career paths to prioritize occupation focus standards. Purpose to realign enlisted career paths with the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. Priority of technical mastery at every level by codifying clear occupation-focused standards, right? Background, overtime, enlisted career paths, a key tool for enlisted selection boards, have incorporated language not directly tied to enlisted occupational standards. This includes references to the MOVSM, participation in First Class Petty Officer Association, chief mess involvement, MWR, and other command collateral duties. While valuable, these activities do not directly contribute to a sailor's technical mastery of their specific rate. So pretty much, Bupers 31 is directed to remove all verbiage that does not directly support an enlisted ratings occupational standards from the ECPs. These changes will be reflected in the next update and will be implemented for the fiscal year 2028 enlisted selection boards. I am confident this revised language will provide a clearer and more effective directive. A POC is Fleet Walker and Command Master Chief Rick Straney from Bupers 31. So that's that.
Yeah, I got some thoughts.
What are they?
My first thought is that I do think we do need them. I think we have lost a little bit when it comes to knowledge and rate and all this stuff. I think we have lost a little bit, but I want to really talk about the things that was said and specifically like named. I think people are going to see lawyer the shit out of it, right? Like that was one of my biggest things. You say MW, you named them, right? You like when you name them, I think that's just what my biggest thought was, Damo, when I first saw it. When you name those things, man, people going to see lawyer and look at, well, I ain't got to do this. Hey, you still got to be a well-rounded sailor, right? For one, that's one of my things I think about. And then sometimes competition get tough. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Those are my quick thoughts, though. But I think naming them was a big deal for me. Naming those collaterals.
Yeah,
I don't think anything really changed. I think it's going to be, they said the ECPs, right? So I think it's just going to say that this person has these qualifications.
Yeah.
Like anchor on the exact in-rate stuff. I think everything that they listed is still going to be referenced in the precepts and the convening order. So I think the ECP is only going to be straight, just technical, and the convening order ECP is going to still say, hey, use that to establish best. When you talk about best fully qualified, I think the best, those things still matter. You got to be able to lead your peers. So I think the ECP is only going to list just this exact rate stuff. Nothing with the leadership and command involvement and like benchmark collaterals.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just your thought, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's what it is.
So a couple people reached out to me after posting my video, and they said in their occupational standards, I think IT was one of them, that they're already writing the occupational standard to get rid of a lot of that language surrounding collaterals. So I'm guessing this has probably been in the works for a little while. Well, I know we've talked about it openly, but there's been nothing pen to paper until now. So
yeah, I mean, last MCPON was heavy on that, right? So I mean, I think like putting pen to paper to something that we've been heavy on for a while is a good thing, right? I'm also along the line of these things still got to get done.
And that's the thing. So people read this and they're like, no more collateral duties. There's some collateral duties that are still required for the command to function. And I kind of pointed that out as well. And I'm sure
all
you
of them. All of them.
Yeah.
I'd say
the last one.
maybe not all of them, but yes,
Yeah,
a lot of them for sure.
Yeah. Like, I could see like MOVSM, man, like, shout out to everybody that got it, right? It's still some holdover sellers that's super motivated, still listening at this point. Some of the triads and some of the admirals probably clicked off, right? But probably not. But it's still some holdover sellers that's super motivated about the MOVSM. And whoever went and got it, congrats. But it's strictly for things you do outside of the command and like who you are as a person and things like that, right? That's MOVSM. We talk in First Class Petty Officer Association, Chief Mess, MWR, and then it says and other command collateral duties, right? So that there is capping off a bunch of things that's not described or disclosed. I got questions about that, right? But my only other thing is like based on, and I don't want people to be too specific, right? But for some of these things that's listed, like the First Class Mess, our Chiefs Mess, or the MWR rec committees, from y'all's experience in the last like 10 years, how robust is the participant? Like how robust are these committees and commands that y'all have been at recently anyway?
For mine, I mean, it's okay.
Maybe I'm using it. Yeah,
no, I mean, it's okay. It ain't like, over and beyond, but I do think you have your same way like everywhere. You got your select few, you know what I'm saying? If you got a first class mess of probably 30, you probably gonna get about 10 of them killing it, or something like that.
Hey,
MWR, shout out, number, what you about to say?
No, shout out to the first classes. This kills the FCPOA, bro. That shit is dead, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
This kills that, yo.
Yeah.
You don't think so, Aaron?
No.
Okay. Why not?
It's not going where you still like your people who are the major, I call them usual suspects in these associations, that top 10 that like Damon's talking about, top 10%, they're usually still the movers and shakers at the command doing things on a deck plate level or mobilizing different initiatives or getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, whenever I want to get a pulse of the command, I'll talk to certain cabinet members of an FCPOA, a JEA, even the, I'll talk to associations. They have a beat on things.
Yeah.
They still got the pulse. They still compel hearts and minds to get things going.
Yeah.
Before this message, though.
What was that?
That was before this came out.
I mean, like to what you said about the C lawyer stuff. You can do that. It sounds real good. That shit sounds real nice. It ain't going nowhere. You still have to lead pitch because guess what? They get their name selected on for advancement to chief. You still gotta motivate the unmotivated or the tired, or it's not going anywhere.
What's your?
So you can go ahead and see lawyer if you want to, but it ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, and you from most of the conversations we had is I feel like you had a different experience than me, right? So what's your percentage, like based off of like the last 10 years of your career, what's your percentage of like motivated, and this is a question for everybody, but Aaron Moore, what's your percentage of like at a command period? So the command is 100%. What's your percentage of like valuable, motivated sellers at the command? And like, take off the CMC hat where you take ownership in and shit, whatever. Like, get rid of that. Go back a couple commands before becoming a CMC. Like, if you had to scale out how much of your command was actually motivated, hitting hard.
Can I do it by each command, or should I do it just
career,
like general?
Whole career.
50%.
Okay. What about you, Joey?
I want to say maybe a little lower, like closer to 30% that are truly motivated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say 30, right?
Yeah.
I would say around 30. That's why I say Aaron had a good Navy experience. Mm-hmm. But I would say most commands I went to, 30% of that command was worth their salt.
Yeah.
Could I just give some reference for why I said 50? For me?
Yeah.
So if I go back a couple of commands again, I was in the Carl Vinson, right?
Yeah.
And I was there from 09 to 13. And because the op tempo of things we was doing, it engendered a lot of motivation.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to RTC. And it's like, if you're not involved, you don't advance. And just the vibe of that place, it does motivate you.
Yeah, that's why I say that. That's why I said you had a different,
But when y'all said 30%, I was like, yeah, that's probably close to like the actual fleet average experience is real stuff.
I mean, you put a Chiefs mess, right? A CPOA right now. I mean, a regional CPOA. Like, how much participation is in a regional CPOA? You know, I mean, we got people that like.
Well, it depends about region, though. I mean, how was it like? Well, Joey, where you at right now, bro?
I'm in San Diego.
I'd imagine that's pretty motivated because how you pissed off in San Diego? Like,
It's definitely pretty relaxed, I would say. So definitely no pissed off vibes over here. So.
Yeah. But like,
oh, and I was in San Diego in the Vincent. So how you pissed off in a gas lamp? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I just think it's a conversation to be had about the people that's like at this point right now was only doing it because it was on the ECP.
I call those stat stuffers, man.
Yeah, but some of them were doing the best they could, you know, versus the other group. Like, man, I was at a command a couple years ago where the first classes, like the FCPOA, right? And again, no shot to the first class. I could talk about the Chiefs, but the FCPOA, it died like around COVID. Like it just died. Like their whole committee or their whole association died. And it was three people trying to bring it back, right? Trying to motivate a region of first classes like, hey, we need this thing. We need to bring this back, right? And they were the fray of motivated sellers that, you know, you've experienced 50% of, right? These three of 118 in the region were the three trying to be like, hey, let's do this, right? I've been in chief, like CPOAs in the last few years where it's like, yo, where is the energy, right? Where's the, you know, I'm not going to say motivate, like, where's the energy? Right? Like, how can we, like, what can we all do to boost it? And I'll admit, even when I was the president of the mess, I lost energy, right? It wasn't a lot of reciprocal energy. So I lost energy. So, you know, again, like I said, some of these things were, man, I got man, this the worst episode because we had Capt Harmon on here. So like, I think I got to take about the season. Like I got to take about the Chief season, right? Like, you know, things be hanging on by a thread, bro. Like you know, I think facts, people are coming to work nowadays. And it might be a post-COVID deal, but I think people are coming to work. To do like check in a box. And I'm not saying everybody, right? It's some great people out there that's doing great things. It's not all encompassing, but I think it's somebody. Now, again, not everybody. It's somebody that read this shit like, we done with this. I'm done with the association. Like, am I? What's your thoughts, Joey?
I did get a lot of comments from people saying no more bake sales.
Right.
But I think you're on point. Like, they're gonna, you know, why would I need to focus on collaterals? Because it says right here, technical mastery. So I'm just gonna go with that. I'm gonna come work. I'm gonna be the best that I could be within my rating, and that's it.
Yeah. And, you know, and like I said, my thing is and my viewpoint is limited. I'm at a small command with a bunch of junior sellers. So I can admit that I don't see, you know, the full picture. But, you know, some of these committees ain't really been hitting for a little bit, you know, anyway, at some places. You know, I don't know MWR. You got a rec committee at your command, Aaron?
Yeah, the MWR.
Yeah. Is it hitting?
The E5s are really
Holiday
so to answer the question.
Yeah.
What?
No. I love these kind of questions on the pod because like people, they be at their command, so you gotta be like careful the way you answer it. You know?
No, I'm not. They know what I'm about, man. They had to deal with me for the past 18 months. They know what it is, man. It's hitting because the E5s make it happen, not the first classes.
So the E5s are killing it on your recreation committee.
On the NWR, like the Corman ball, they did the heavy lifting on that.
Yeah.
And that was a success. Them and the chief that they had, they're the ones that made it happen. They were the fun police for real. They really make things happen.
What have they done since then? Like, what have they done this year, since January?
A lot of things in the barracks. So like, I forgot what they call them. It's kind of like a we do in LA like a not a crew swap. It's like a pseudo barracks swap meet. Every time there's a big game, a sporting event, anything, they always will have, they out there doing burgers, doing potlucks, doing their little game. They always doing something in the barracks.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Damon? You got a rec committee at your command?
Yeah.
Or MWR, whatever. It should be called a rec committee, not MWR, but you got one at your command?
Yeah, we got one. They trying, man. Holiday party was a success, but after January moving forward, man, that's about it, bro. Like, they come up with some ideas, man, and some come up, and I don't blame it all on them. You know, like this aviation shit is real, man. Like, they always going and going. So it ain't all them, but we most definitely could do more. I can tell you that.
Yeah, and I guess my point is a lot of people kind of moved away from prioritizing these things anyway. On here, I think a lot of people moved away from it. You know,
do you think an after effect is that the people who do it now is a higher quality of person? They really want to do it because now if they feel there's no incentive, they're doing it for like quote unquote love of the game, like it's a passion. It'll be a better associations because it's people doing it for the right reasons, not trying to stat stuff and be seen or clout chase.
Yes. The answer is yes. I think so. You know, my question would be, right? Why do you need a CPOA, a FCPOA, a JEA, and a CSAT, and a fully functional Seller 360 program?
Oh, you need all of them?
Yeah. I said my question. So I'm like, I'm looking for an answer.
I ain't trying to like dominate the combo, especially after being gone for 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Like, why do you need...
Go through each one, man. The CSAT or whatever.
Yeah, and the reason why it's a real question is because all of them, like, I don't necessarily disagree, right? But we go to commands where CSAT, JEA, and your MWR committee, they all be doing the same thing sometimes. Like, and it's like, that's not the purpose. Like, CSAT has a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Right? So CSAT is like over here, right? It's the Coalition of Sellers Against Destructive Decisions. That's over here. That's a completely different mission set than JEA, right? So that's the real reason I'm asking, so somebody can answer, so somebody that's listening could understand there are differences to the purposes of these programs.
Hey, for me, I'm kind of like, I guess my thought process is like what we doing with the program. I've been at commands where there's out there kicking ass at these programs, right? And I've been at commands, they haven't done anything with it. And I say, damn, why the fuck we even got this? Why are we even doing this? If ain't nobody gonna do nothing with it. Why are we hoarding $4,000, $5,000, $6,000? We're not doing anything with it. We just doing, fundraising and making money. They ain't doing nothing for the sailors, right? And then when the flip side of that, you got some is just, you only got the committee. You know what I mean? Like, ain't nobody else really doing anything with it. Yeah. So I'm kind of going both ways, but I also think it's a process to it too. We are learning from, the junior sailors, then the first class got their mess. And then when they get to the mess, I think it's a learning process to know how things work until you get to the mess and how things function and all that stuff. And then, of course, all that being said, I feel like the help of making a healthy JA or first class mess is having chiefs that's helping it with that process also. Making it something, because sometimes sailors is going out, I like doing this, I like doing that, but they also need some mentorship. They need some guidance on stuff to help out. So I think as long as you have that full team there to help out, it can be successful.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm about to, I know we got some questions for Joey and I want to get into those, but Aaron, what's your kind of justification for having each of those different programs?
I'll go back to your first point with the blurring or the CSAT and the JEA. CSAT does have that exact thing, but some things in the JEA help with in that CSAT vein. If a junior sailor is, if they're in the community or they're doing fellowship with each other or they're building with each other, that lends to them not being prone or being swayed to destructive decisions. So I think a JEA helps with that. most JAs are always actively looking for mentorship and doing things. So a JA, you need a JA, that way it gives a junior sailor, avenues to do things. You gotta go. That you could do things that aren't destructive. For a second class parallel association, Damo's face. You make my Aaron make Damo's face.
I'm just because you kind of twisted CSAT and JA together, and I got confused there. But
what I'm saying, there's certain things that JEA does that supports the mission of a CSAT.
So, do you need CSAT then?
Yes. If the JEA isn't, yes, if JEA doesn't make that like a point of emphasis.
All right, Aaron. All right.
Okay, moving on. Why do you need, put me in a pinch. Why do I think you need a second class association?
Yes, if you got a JEA, yeah.
I don't consider a second class a junior. That's a critical middle.
Okay, that's the
so. That's what I got. I mean, okay, and then first class and chief, right?
Yeah.
The first class one fellowship is not to groom you to be a chief. It's to be established first class. You're doing things. You should be able to fellowship. Customs courtesies, hail and bails, right? Recognition. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because, man, I like the first, the CPOA, Chiefs Mess conversation. I also like the group with first classes and chiefs. I like that thing. I don't know what to call it because it's not like a real thing, but at the commands I've been at, I tried to fetch a thing like, hey, let's get with the first classes and get with the chiefs. Let's collaborate more and do these things. I like that as a thing. I think it's super effective. I think you get mentorship. I think you get a lot of things like that, especially at a command where your Seller 360 is not really effective.
Can I give another shot at this answer though? I'm thinking about it for a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm trying. I'm not trying to squeeze a diamond out of a coal, but if we don't do those things, then we are no different than a regular 9 to 5, and nothing about what we do is like a regular 9 to 5. If I'm not on the Ford and I wasn't on what was the ship that was out there during COVID forever?
Yeah,
with Carrier. Man, I feel bad. Anyway, right? If you're out there deployed, churning or burning forever, you need each other. You need things, man. That's what makes us different. The trauma bonding, knowing people, backing each other up. That's why you need those things, right? We have customs courtesies. That's why I think you need those, man.
All right.
Because if not, then we do better than a civilian.
All right. So Seller 360 meets and I promise it's the last question about this. Seller 360 meets every Monday at 10, right? Your JEA meets every Tuesday at 10, right? Your CSAT meets every Wednesday at 10. Your second class petty officer association meets every Thursday at 10. And your recreation committee meets every Friday at 10. You got a second class in your division that's a part of JEA, the second class association, Seller 360, CSAT, and the rec committee. Is that second class going to each of those things at 10 every single day? Why or why not?
I'm trying to let Joey get some burn. You know what I'm saying?
Joey ain't saying. Joey.
Look,
I stated
I'm saying out of this one, man.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Bump it. Thanos snap.
He gonna crash. He gonna
burn
crash.
on.
Just gonna crash.
We don't need none of this shit. Look, man, shut the fuck up and go to work and take your punk ass home. Yeah. Hope commute don't get you. We don't need no associations, man. Look, do work. All right? 007 says, just strap your boots up, go to work, have a decent lunch break, and take your scraggly ass home. That's it. That's my stance on it. We don't need nothing.
Hey, Damo, I will say this, man. That's out there happening, though. That's happening, bro. Like,
I know.
like they are going to all these, and some of them got a good heart, man. They got a good heart. Their heart in the right place, right? They trying to do these things and help out and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the same time, as a leader, you got to look into that stuff too, though, man. Like, I can see myself right now with having like one second class, and I'd be like, you got to pick something. You can't do all this. You got to pick something,
But they're going to break down to you how each of them serve a different purpose. And, he's like, hey, man, it is. So,
you're right. You don't have to break down them too. Like, hey, motherfucker. Like,
so my question for all of y'all as we kind of into this conversation about Joey, the quick one, just to kind of get some basics. Anybody ever talk to y'all about like the signature block in your email? And I mean, like, so I say that to say, when I was a younger seller, I put my CSAT, my JEA, my Second Class Petty Officer Association, a cabinet member, my rep committee treasurer, my signature block was like 12 lines long, right? And like a mentor of mine that was an officer, he was like, hey, man, just put your top 2 there, man. Like, you don't got to fill that up with every single thing you do at the command, right? And I say that because we've been getting more emails from sellers, and I've been seeing 20-line signature blocks. It's like, hey, man, like top 2. What's y'all thoughts on signature blocks, though?
Oh, man, Damo, this happened to me. I had to talk to my first class about this, man, on the NECs. Hey, anybody from the NECs, listen. This dude had like everything. When I say everything, I'm talking about gas-free petty officer. He put that in his signature block. Like basic stuff that he does all the time. And it was on there. So he emailed me and I had to call him. I called him in there and I told him, I said, hey man, you are a first class now, man. Like this, when somebody see your signature block that looks like this, I said, first, and I told him how I thought about it, man. I don't want to say what I said on there, but I said, man, you pretty much, you looking like a clown right now, having 20 freaking things. Like, it was like 20 some things he had in his signature block. But I thought, and the reason why I said he looking like a clown, because I thought he was doing it on purpose. I thought he was acting, he was putting that on there because of that. But then after I talked to him a little while, I don't think so, man. I think he was literally like no shit listing all that stuff on there. Like, I was like, that's crazy right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And somebody wrote to me before, they was like, hey, just put what you're emailing about, right? So if this MWR, put MWR president there, right? Don't do it. But what's some of the feedback? Y'all ever got any feedback or any conversation about y'all signature blocks before? Or what's y'all thoughts on that? That was my question. What's y'all thoughts on signature blocks?
Man, the only reason why I got a signature block is make it easy for me. It's at the end of my email every time. I don't have to.
You'll see him see, man. You'll see him see. But for Aaron and Joey, what's y'all thoughts on like what a junior seller should be putting in their block?
I got a pet peeve with them. I think that the personal quotes shouldn't be in there. Like, it just doesn't seem professional to me,
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, like you told Damo, top 2. If it's something that's major, like if you like the damn Subic or watch bill coordinator, that's major. You want to make sure that people are contacting you to make sure that that's a major program that's going. If you send me something major. With the quotes, I didn't have a quote for a long time. I converted to having a quote when I became a CMC.
Yeah,
I put my leadership philosophy on there. That's the one thing. It's like, all right, I'm CMC, I'll do that.
What is it?
Honor the oath, honor the assignment. No, I don't want like no. Oh, you laughing at my leadership philosophy? That's crazy.
I'm not laughing at your leadership philosophy. I'm laughing at your leadership philosophy and the audacity of it. But it's because I know you, and I've heard you say honor the oath a lot of times, and it was to control yourself. Like that's the only reason why.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's why.
Honor the oath, honor the assignment. Yeah. I'm not going to go into it. You don't care to hear about it, but I kept it simple and clean, and I put it in my signature block. A mentor told me, yo, man, make sure people know that's your one thing. You shake a hand, pound a coin, hey, man, boom. That's your thing.
Okay. All right, Joey. No, that's not dismissive at all. Like we got to get to Joey. I ain't even gonna go. I got a quote in mind too. My quote changes every command, right? I'm serious about it. It changes every command. It got to do with whatever my thought process at that command is, and that changes the next place, right? And there's normally a lesson learned from the last place. But Joey, first question got to be about the Fat Chief thing, right? Just because I know you've gotten people who had issues with the name and, you know, conversations. My question outside of that is, what happens after this year that you do all of these burpees and you're no longer Fat Chief? Like, does the name change to just Joey Sawyer, or is it Skinny Chief? Like, is it Progressive Chief?
I haven't thought that far ahead on it. And for those that don't know, the reason for the name, right, when I started this whole thing, it was January 6th of 2025, and I still am, but I really was the Fat Chief, right? I started at 267 pounds. I looked like a damn balloon. It was a bit embarrassing. And so I started it really to have that external validity and accountability as I'm trying to go through this transition. And then, of course, my whole set of channels morphed when my sailors realized that, hey, you know, NCC's on Instagram and he's on TikTok, he should talk about, you know, career related stuff. And it just kind of took off from there. But to kind of go more into your question, if there will be a name change? I don't know. Because I think inside I've always been a fat kid because I just at heart. But I really don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead on it, to be honest with you.
You should keep it, bro.
Yeah, me too. I think
if Fat Joe is still Fat Joe, he ain't that fat no more. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You should keep it. And then they said, "Why are you Fat Chief?" Because I was fat and I took the reins of my health and my life, and I'm not. But that's what I am. So it's testament.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting tight at some people with some of the comments of you, man. I'm like, how dare you? You're fat. You're moving like you're talking to a dude who's actually working out. Shut up. What are you getting mad at him for? Like that just.
And that's what, you know, internet's going to be the internet. There's going to be trolls out there.
Smash them. No,
but and that's the other part of it too. Just like being authentic, because you know you could go on Instagram, you see all these people that are super fake with it. Like I have no reason to be fake, so I wanted junior sailors and anyone in the Navy to see that like we all have our own struggles. So for me, that's one of them.
Yeah. So this came from, and I don't think it's a topic worth staying on for like 20 minutes, right? You know, just like, yeah, hey man, they talked about like the name Fat Chief for 20 minutes, man. We finally got to like the nitty gritty. But I think what's more important is you touched on it earlier when we had Captain Harmon on a podcast, is what made you decide, and I like Aaron's word, I started using it more, what gave you the impetus to you know, do that. And it came from you seeing that it was a void, and outside of you know, your seller saying, hey, NCC is on here, can he talk about some career stuff? It also came from like you acknowledging a void in like just basic level of knowledge things from, you know, these sellers, right?
Oh, 100%. There is, I hate to say it, there's such a huge knowledge gap on basic Navy principles that shouldn't exist. And that's evidence if I pull up my DMs from sailors of all pay grades, ranks, ratings, basic stuff. And frankly, it's a little embarrassing. And I don't know how to fix that gap. There's always going to be some sort of a knowledge gap because you're not going to be able to push out all the information to everyone all the time, especially in this day and age. But being able to put out that information on a platform where most of our, especially junior sailors, are now spending a lot of their time, it just makes sense.
Yeah. How crazy are the DMs? Like, and what I mean by crazy is like, I would assume you get a lot of DMs.
Yeah. It varies, but I get a very consistent flow. I will say when I put out the BBA videos, I would literally get the same question about 100 times a day. And it's almost just on repeat replying back. But
yeah.
Yeah.
When you started this, and this is normally the question for anybody that like do anything like in the military on social media, because we were asked this a million times. This don't happen to us as much as I think that people might think it does. But when you started, did you get any like real life resistance or real life pushback from anybody? Like either you were at the same command with, or they had your phone number and called you and told you you were wrong for what you were doing, or was this all like embraced in a positive way?
So I was actually very surprised. I kind of in the back of my mind thought that once people, especially like the chiefs in my mess, saw what I was doing, that I would get pushback. But overwhelmingly in person, like I have received nothing but positive feedback and constructive criticism, but nothing like super negative. Like you shouldn't do that. You know, you're wrong for doing that. But it's 90% of it's been super positive.
Yeah. So. And you lay it out flat, right? That's kind of what I like about what you got going on. It's not a lot of like what we do. Like we read something and then we like be like, nah, this bullshit. You know, like we read something. We'd be like, we agree. What you do is you give like the facts, right? Brass tacks, like, and give like platforms like ours pretty much a story. Like we could take something you kind of, put out, and then we could do our whole analyzation of it and thought process and like, how do really people think about these things? Is that intentional for you?
It was. So when I actually started putting out this kind of information, I dug a bit into like the social media instructions and things like that. And I didn't want to be the person that was known like being political this way or this way. I just wanted to put out the facts and keep the opinions very narrow, if any at all, and just engage that discussion or start up that discussion so that way we can bring it to light.
Yeah, and because the social media policy kind of does outline, that whole thing. I think we kind of walk the line, because sometimes when we dig into policy now, it doesn't make like a social media clip. It's on a podcast, but it doesn't make the social media clip, right? So I think that's kind of where we figure it out. Did you expect your page and your channel to reach the amount of people that it reached in this short amount of time?
Nope. Again, when I initially started, it was just more for me. I didn't think really anyone would watch, but maybe a few random strangers. And every day that I log on and, I'm seeing more people follow, like between right now to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's over 40,000. And that's crazy to me. Like before 2025, I was never like a social media guy. I had Facebook as a way for like keep touch with friends back home. I didn't have an Instagram. So I have been learning a bunch as I've been going along with all this. So
that's good. Oh, Damo. Hey, so I guess one of the questions I have, like, what is this looking like in a year or two? Kind of the same thing, or how you gonna evolve it a little bit? If you're going to.
I don't know that there'll be much evolving, but I will say, I don't know how much I can say, but there are potential ways to kind of expand with people that are reaching out to me behind the scenes, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we'll see if any of that plays out in the near future, but that's all I can really talk about with that. So.
Okay. Yeah. So timing and consistency, right?
Yep.
My first question is timing. Bruh, I'm getting your clips, right? And I talked to you about it before we started, but we joked about it on a pod, bro. Like, I got you running up steps. I got you running somewhere in the dark. I got you doing 35 burpees or whatever, right? But then I'm getting your clips before I'm seeing the nav admin, man. Like you got like a a nav admin signal or something? Like you can just
You gotta
for
connect.
us?
Yeah.
You got to connect.
The NCCM probably.
So I won't necessarily say I got to connect, but I will say that I do my best to stay informed and to keep refreshing that page, keep my eye on a message traffic. But I kind of dedicate a chunk of my time to just seeing what new policies and instructions are coming down the pipeline. So
yeah. So the consistency part, right? So my first, well, I guess before I get to consistency, is it like people at your command, like where you like work physically now, that just keep coming to you asking you like, well, you're the career counselor anyway, so I guess you get all those questions anyway, right?
Yep.
So consistency. Are you married?
Yep.
Okay. You got kids?
Yep.
How many?
Got 3 kids. Actually, my oldest is 19. She recently got married to a fairly new AO. So I got to teach him how to read and write. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No, he's a good kid. So 19, 13, and 9.
Damn, so you kind of got a spread, right?
Yeah.
So no 2-year-olds, which I mean is the
No.
best news ever.
We're done with that.
Yeah, that's like meltdown after
I'm off that.
meltdown after meltdown. Like, hey, I'm not zipping your jacket up. It's 60 degrees. Like, you don't need your jacket zipped up, and then it's
Yep.
So now you doing burpees every day, right? You doing some other form of working out every day. You digging in tech pubs every day or whatever. Like, what does I know the struggle of doing a podcast, right? Like we release our episode. We record on Thursdays. The Thursday episode comes out on Monday. Last week, we recorded an episode on Thursday. I recorded an episode on Friday. We released the episode on Monday. We released the episode today, which is Thursday, completely different episode. Then we got to cut clips. We got to like do things like that. The only difference between what I would say we do, it's a lot of differences, but one of the major differences between what we do and what you do is like the podcast feeds itself when it comes to clips, right? So I could pull 7 clips from one episode or 14 clips from one episode. You generally gotta like come up with whatever it is you're coming up with at that time and make your reel, your clip or whatever like that. And for me, just doing what I do with the podcast, it takes time. It's like barters with, at this point, it's like sometimes I feel guilty about things. It's like barters with the family and figuring out things like, how do you manage like these tasks and your time and stay consistent? Because I feel like you drop at least a video a day.
Yeah. Admittedly, part of that is a lack of sleep. If you've seen when I work out in the morning, it's pretty dang early. And so what I'll do the day before, unless there's something that's like newsworthy or it's coming out rapidly, I'll have it kind of planned out the day before. So that way, when I'm waking up first thing in the morning, I'm not having to think of what I'm about to talk about. But then you have those little micro pockets of time where you're not doing anything, instead of pulling out my phone to play a game or to like scroll through Instagram. That'll be when I'm coming up with my ideas and doing my research and things like that. So it's just find those little micro pockets of time, but also you can bring up a good point with feeling almost a sense of guilt when it comes to the family piece. Like I try to over communicate with my wife on some of these things because flat out, 2 of the things that I told myself when I started, it's not going to affect my home life. It's not going to affect my work life. If it does either of those, then I'm just going to stop or I'll make it work. So just ensuring, the time management piece, which again, a lot of it for me is probably a lack of sleep, if I'm being real.
Yeah. Because I watch you in some of these burpee videos, man. I'd be like, man, Joey don't want to do them burpees today, man.
No, it was 106 today, and I sure didn't want to do them. But you know what? The internet's forever, and so here we are.
Yeah. I mean, again, though, it's feeding itself, right? The invert of that, but like you holding yourself accountable to a thing, and it's actually just going to make you better.
Yeah.
Right. How much has like just this existence you have in social media already made you better?
I could argue a fair amount, right? So same thing as I said before, it's all about being authentic and honest. So it's still me and my true self, but throughout the process, I have learned a great deal of discipline when it comes to just sucking it up and doing it. And sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, you can't really teach that. Like, and that could be relatable, not just to, working out. It could be to trying to get that qual, working on a PQS. Like, if you don't have the discipline to sit down and do it, if you don't feel like doing it, you're going to go do something else.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Where you from?
Originally from Carson City, Nevada.
Okay. How long you been in?
16 years. Actually, next month will be 16.
Okay. And then like, what's your like just command career history?
So boot camp, May of 2010, turned 25 when I was in boot camp. So I joined a little late in life compared to most. Was already married and our oldest was 3 at that time. Source rating was SH when they were still called SHs.
Nice.
Yep. So right after boot camp, went to Meridian, Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah, good old Meridian, Mississippi, man. Got out of there as fast as I could, but still made still made AAP, Accelerated Advancement Program. So once I reported my first ship, they'll put on third class pretty quick, and that was a USS Dubuque LPD-8. Met her on her final deployment in August of 2010 and rode that out. Helped decom the ship most of the way. Then I transferred to the USS Pellew LJ5 in 2011 and finished out my sea time on her. Coincidentally, she was decomming the same month that I transferred to my first shore duty, which was San Clemente Island, which wasn't really much of a shore duty if you know anything about San Clemente Island, but was there from 2015 to 2018, transferred out, and that was all in San Diego. Then transferred to Hawaii to John Paul Jones DG-53. That's where I put on SH1, which they did the name change to RS1 right at that time. And then a month later, was successfully converted to NC1. And actually cross-decked in the middle of that tour to the William P. Lawrence DDG-110 because they got their NC1 billet. They're about to go on their COVID cruise. So I did that COVID cruise with them. Transferred from William P. Lawrence, did officially back-to-back sea duty to the San Jacinto CG-56. And that was the end of 2021. And the next year, so October 2022 is when I put on chief. Decommed USS San Jacinto CG-56 at the September 2023, transferred to USS Baton LHD-5 to finish out that sea tour. And then in July of last year, I transferred to Swarming, and I'm here. So a lot of bouncing around between ships.
Yeah.
You decommed a lot of ships.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but it's a mouthful. So,
and they do a lot of amphibs, right?
Yeah. So amphib, my favorite though, not because I made chief on her, but my favorite was the cruiser. I really like that layout, and I wish that they weren't decomming them, but I understand why.
Yeah. What made you?
Was Aaron Barnaby? I'm sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say, what made you want to go career counselor?
So when I was on San Clemente Island, we didn't have a dedicated NC. They acted more like a departmental career counselor, reported to North Island. And the person that was leaving successfully converted to NC. And I was talking with him, and he's like, you make a good career counselor. You know, you're pretty smart, know a lot of stuff about career advice and whatever. And so just like that, the island made me the departmental career counselor. So I kind of fell into it, and I fell in love with it. It was a way to be able to help sailors that wasn't selling them Snickers bars, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
do you have the typical NC customer service skills? Like someone comes in and is maybe some information that should be like common knowledge. There's such a thing to be like, hey man, all right, I know it's over here. Check this on my Navy HR or this mill purge. Or you like, hey, I got you. You teach me how to fish? Or you like, nah, man, check this and come back and then we'll talk about it.
I think that's situational. So if it's someone I've never seen before or they're junior sailor and they don't know that the resources exist, I'll swing them around my desk. I'll be like, hey, this is where you're going to find this, ABC. But if it's one of my departmental career counselors or if they're more senior and they should know the answer, I might kind of be like, hey, you can find that information in Milpers Man, whatever. And if they're still giving me that confused look, then I'll swing them around and be like, all right, come on, I got you.
Have you ever told somebody to like follow your Instagram? Like, yo, dude, I just talked about
I
this.
haven't, but my NC ones, every single person that they check in, they're like, yeah, we got Fat Chief in there. You should follow him. And I'm like, you don't need to put that out.
Like, subscribe, smash that like button. You know what I'm saying?
You don't need to put that out. Like if they're not following, they'll find it and they'll make that choice on their own.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I am too. Like, I don't talk about it really. People find out. And then it's this other, like, my sellers are between 18 and 21, right? They like really young. Like, so I was walking, you familiar with Veronica Scott?
Yes.
NC1. So she came to my command to like drop off something because I went to her retirement. So she was giving me a coin. And I was walking her around because I knew she would love being at the ceremonial guard. So I was showing her stuff. And like, the demographic of seller I have, some of them have not seen like PTSF on TikTok yet, right? Like some of them do, but some of them didn't. Like, so I'm walking around with Veronica, and Veronica was pretty big on social media. And like some of my sellers, like, who's she? CMC? Like they like don't know, I'm like, that's Veronica Scott. Y'all don't know who she is. She's kind of like the godmother of the social media influence, Navy influencer, right? And, she went to my PAO office. She was like, hey, I could, like, if y'all need help, I could get y'all like some, help here. And my PAO was like listening, like, okay. I'm like, do you know who just offered, to help us? Like, that's Veronica Scott. And she's already doing, like, if y'all don't know, she already doing big things in CNIC, Fleet and Family. Like MWR has an Instagram page now and they got videos floating out on that thing. Like, I'm probably shouting her out before she even like want the world to know, but she's already making an impact somewhere else. So, I mean, I'm just, bro, I don't want to be here forever. But man, I'm happy seeing you out there, getting that information out there. Like I said, I want you to come back on. We gotta deep dive. We gotta get some topics and deep dive some stuff and have some fun, stuff like that. But it's just good to see you out there putting really good information. I see like Forrest Houlihan at one point shared one of your things and was like, this is what I like on social media, not them other, people putting out divisive shit. Something he said, right? I thought that was good. And there's more people just embracing it and all that stuff. And I think it's good, right? And it opens the aperture to leaders like Captain Harmon to come on a show like this and have a conversation about something like SIM BBA that affects, at this point, almost every seller, right? And it's because people like you are out there and doing it the right way. So thanks, because you could pick up social media and you could choose to do it the wrong way. Yep. You know what I mean? So, and our sellers, they need it. I recently shared one of your reels in my first class. I got a first class chief group, right? I was talking about earlier. I recently shared one of your reels in my first class chief group. And, I shared it with some of my junior sellers. It was the one about, the uniform card, the like little uniform money card or whatever. I shared that and, they loved it. Good information and stuff like that, man. So me to you, bro, thanks. We appreciate what you're doing out there, man.
Yeah,
of course.
I echo the same thing Damo said, man. Hey, you're doing a hell of a job out there putting that information out, man. And I mean, you talking about the mess, man. I mean, my mess, man. You see that new reel? Seen Fat Chief with it? Like, they like it's a thing, man. I just want you to know, like, hey, you're kicking ass out there, man. And it's really a thing, and people are actually talking about it. So keep that shit up, man.
Yeah. We got a segment, bro. Before you go, It's called Do Better. It's a Do Better segment. I wasn't gonna let you go without giving us a Do Better, man. And if you, I'm assuming you're familiar with it, but for the listeners that might not be, right? We just ask somebody for something that could be better, right? Something that could be improved upon. The ask is for a Navy thing, but it doesn't have to be Navy. It could be a personal thing. It could be, a command thing. It could be whatever. But, we normally just say, what's your do better? And that's how it goes. So what's your do better?
So it's kind of tied into a little bit of why I do what I do, but the do better could be if people that need to know, especially career counselors, when it's a career, or if it's a career related instruction or policy or nav admin that's being put out, if we could get just like a tiny bit of read ahead as a community, so we could dissect it as a community. So that way we're not inundated with questions and concerns right off the jump when we don't even know what it's about either. And I understand that's not necessarily realistic all the time, but there are definitely some policies, some instructions that the NC community could get a read ahead on, even if it's like 12 hours. Just so we have time to prepare. We could ask those that developed the instruction or the policy the questions that we're going to get asked. So that way we actually have an answer and we're not just leaving our sailors hanging. That's my do better.
That's a good one.
I would argue that it's CMCs out there that feel your pain.
Yeah.
Sure. Damn right.
Aaron, you got to do better?
Yeah. Write down your passwords for your devices.
Yeah, you need.
I apologize to my PTS fan for not having my IT together. I felt like I was troubleshooting Link on the ship, man, trying to get this. So write down your passwords.
Yeah.
And then, that's my do better. Just write down your freaking passwords, man.
Yeah, I know you had an issue with like Facebook drops too for like these policies and all that stuff. But
yeah, I do. I think I don't like. Yeah, we gotta go with the times, man. But the speed of the internet, man, it causes these wildfires to get put out. I think that career counselors should get the information before, like one day before.
Yeah.
Right. And then it goes out, and because y'all the first line of defense or the first people to receive all that, right? So I think that I don't like all this. Like I got that memo 007, a text message in my Master Chief group. I don't like that.
007.
The first time I saw it was last night at like 2100 local time, and it was a follower saying, "Hey, what is this about?"
Yeah,
especially because with everything is so fake with the AI and everything. It's just we have to really stress our communication channels. Like when the memo or that thing came out talking about turn location off, and we Damo and Damon was like, "Yo, I'll forward to them." Damon was like, "I don't know, boy. I don't know, man." Damo was like, "I'll do it, but I'm not sharing." I was like, "Me too. I'm not sharing it." You know what I'm saying? And then in my mess in the group chat, the one CNG looked at the CT. He's like, "Hey, bro, that's your lane. You can tell us it's fake." What the fuck? What's up, bro?
This dude, Aaron.
So just like effective communication channel.
Hey, Joey, this dude, Aaron, had me delete Snapchat and Uber, bro.
Uber, bro. Uber.
I got this message from Veronica and just didn't believe it, right? And it ain't had nothing to do with her. It's just, I'm like, man, this can't be real. Then Aaron shares it, bro. I'm like, it's no way.
With a disclaimer, I was like, nah, this ain't, I don't know, man. I'm not putting into my mess, my command.
So don't lie on me. That's the definition of my character. Don't motherfucking defamate my character.
I'm like, it's no way that this is BS now that Aaron shared it, right? And Aaron shares it, and he pissed. Aaron pissed. He's like, "Why this information coming from?" Aaron ain't give the full real story. Aaron like, "Why this information ain't coming to us in a better way?" Boo, boo, boo. So I'm like, "Well, Aaron, like, I ain't really believe this, but if you saying it, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I went right on my phone. I went right to Snapchat. I got rid of Snapchat. I went to Uber. I hesitated for a second. I'm like, if I need a ride, I could use Lyft. And I got rid of Uber. I went to Uber Eats. I hesitated for a second, and I said, Uber Eats is gonna stay around. Man. I'm not getting rid of Uber Eats. I don't care what Aaron has to say. And then something came out later and was like, hey, that was fake. And then they was like, but it's a uniform.
Captain Walker dropped it. Cap was like, hey, y'all. Hey. Yeah. Cap Walker forwarded the first joint in our timeline.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he shared it. But somebody else told me like, hey, no, that one was fake, but it's this uniform one that's real. And then like a week later, they was like, hey, that uniform one that was real is also not real. like, what are we doing? You know, and it's no way to temper it because like we are now getting these Facebook drops, right? And they are working from the outside in or whatever. Like however I could explain it, like they working from the bottom up or however, you know, and it's not right. And like I said, Joey, I would argue that a lot of people share that sentiment, whether it's other like skipper or triad members or whoever, like your NCs, your triad, like people are wanting to get the read ahead. And I can't remember the last time I saw a read ahead. You know, I might have heard rumblings that something was coming. Like, hey, there's something coming about this, but I can't remember the last time it was like, hey, y'all, we're going to give y'all a chance to look at this so y'all could be ready for the conversation. You know, I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but hey, bro, thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, kicking it with us. Hopefully, like I said, we get you back on when it's just us and we can have some fun, laugh.
Yeah, of course.
You know, do some more stuff, man, and just keep doing what you're doing out there, bro.
Yeah.
Show.
Damon, did you have a do better?
No, I don't have a do better. I ain't have a do better. Make sure.
Yeah. I ain't have it either. Like, I knew Aaron
Thanks,
had
Joey, for calling me out.
Write your passwords. Hey, I'm really sorry I missed that convo, man. Ah, damn.
Hey, bro. Like, I mean, it's not like...
You sorry about missing what combo? When you, to my, like, every week?
Damn. You didn't drop off a couple calls.
This man making me sound like I'm an NBA player on load management or something. Roman Reigns, I only do 2 paid events a month for something.
Load management is crazy.
Hey, I know that's crazy, but I was just saying what Damo wanted to say, man. That's all.
Yeah. I would have just said it. I mean, I actually wanted to say something else, but I can't say it. I can say it when we turn off the mics, but I can't say it with the mic on. Like,
I have no IT now, so I'm good for once.
Yeah. Right, man. As soon as we turn off the mics, I'm gonna say it.
Mississippi stand, dude.